The experimental log of the Crazy Lich Chapter 1, I really am a good person. I am a good person. Although everybody knew that I was a good person and a law-abiding citizen, why did the public security officer in front of me still harass me to no end? As a law-abiding resident of Sulphur Mountain City, I pay my taxes on time and work diligently. In my workplace, I am a hard-working employee. In this locality, I am known to be a good neighbor and a good friend. I'm even an avid pet lover. Look at this medal. My Abao is the champion of the Community Pet Superstar competition. The medal and ribbon hanging on the wall served as evidence of my past glory. Carved on the medal were the words "The 7th Annual Sulphur Mountain City Community Pet Superstar Competition Champion and blessing our lively and cute Abao to forever stay healthy." At the same time, Abao, who I was obviously very proud of, was blissfully enjoying his meal by the foot of the wall. Yet no matter how much I tried to explain myself, the Dark Elf public security officer simply stared at me silently. It was as though she had already decided that I was lying. "Bet, Abao? You mean that fearsome monster? He's one of the reasons why we are receiving complaints about you. The Lop family has complained about your pet attacking their son." Below the medal, my Abao was fervently licking a bone as his saliva dripped from his mouth. When he noticed his owner looking at him, he smiled at me. "Such a cute pet." Lop family? Who are they? I really don't have any memory of them. Just as I was hesitating over whether I should use a reconnaissance spell to refresh my worsening memory, the Dark Elf public security officer seemed to notice my memory slip and flashed a cold smile. "Don't you think your words lack reliability? After all, his son's tibia, one is still in the mouth of the monster you are rearing." "Oh, so you're talking about the neighboring skeleton soldier family." "Their family seems to be fond of playing with Abao. Such kind people they are." I flitted towards Abao and tried to wrestle the bone out of his mouth, but it was to no avail. Frustrated, I raised my fist and knocked the silly dog on the head. Let go, you idiot." "If you don't want to be locked up in the pound, then let go." Such an obedient dog. When he saw how obstinate I was, the cute Abao whimpered and yielded his treasure with a pitiful look. "Don't worry, Abao. After I get this bitch off my tail, I'll make sure the entire Lop family plays with you for an entire year," I promised him in a hushed tone. It would be hard to refute her with this tibia here serving as a proof of the crime. I tried to squeeze out a smile and fawn over the public security officer. "A misunderstanding. It's all just a misunderstanding. Abao is just too passionate. He has always liked to make new friends, and whenever it's time to leave, he would always be ever so reluctant." "Isn't it normal to receive a memento of remembrance from a friend?" I tried to pass over the tibia, but the public security officer abruptly took a step back. "Stay away, maintain a safe distance from me. Who knows what kinds of nefarious curses you may be preparing. My comrades are still out there. If I don't return, you will face the wrath of the entire town order security army, simplified as town security." Although I had put myself in such a lowly position, this lass was still unwilling to spare me some face, and my good intention of handing over the tibia was met with a look of disgust. She even retreated 2 steps and assumed a false bravado despite her wariness of me. "I am a public security officer who represents the city. Do you know the consequences of attacking a public security officer?" "Just a misunderstanding, a misunderstanding. I really am a good person." I silently sighed to myself and lamented how sensitive and alert the Dark Elves were to magic. With no other choice, I silently dispelled the hypnotism spell and venom snake curse I had placed on the bone. "I don't care if you're a good person or not. According to Sulphur Mountain City's public security rules and regulations, you are to pay a fine of 50 gold coins and deliver an upfront apology within 3 days." That bitch. After leaving behind some harsh words, she snatched away the tibia, turned her head, and left. "You better remember it well if you don't want me knocking on your door again. The next time, the entire town security troop will appear at your door." After closing the door, my face immediately soured. That bitch better be careful and not get smashed by a wooden bat and sold to a slave market. In this underground world, the Dark Elves have always been a bestseller, truly a valuable trading product. I cursed her venomously in my mind. After all, if my words happened to be heard and the bitch really got sold away, then wouldn't I become the primary suspect? I'm not so foolish as to dig my own grave. "Big sister, You're really amazing to be able to stand up against such a scary monster. I can't calm my nerves in his presence. Well, Armin, these fellows are actually all the same. Strong on the outside but weak on the inside. As a dignified member of the town security, you must know. The conversation of the two dark elves could be heard from not too far away. DSK, to belittle me. If I hadn't decided to turn over a new leaf and be a good person, you would have been sold to a brothel by now. When the cute Abao noticed how depressed his owner was, he came over and licked my face with his large tongue that was covered with poisonous thorns. Take it easy, Abao, remember that you are a dignified Gromagus, too, and not some dumb family dog that salivates all over the place. Let's go apologize to the Lop family and eat our dinner while we're at it. Yup, dinner. The two heads of the stum dog simultaneously started salivating upon hearing that there would be something to eat tonight. He pounced on me and began licking me with enthusiasm. There's no doubt that a dog is a man's best friend. This was even more true for a two-headed hellhound. It was just that his food was slightly on the pricey side. Magic-filled bones were said to be one of the best types of food for him, and with the passionate support of the Lop family, I could probably save around a month's worth of food. Oh right, I forgot to introduce myself. I, Roland Mist, am 376 years old, and I am a good man, to be exact, a good lich. If one were to ask the people of this world about their views on liches, there probably won't be many positive comments. Heinous villains. The ultimate existences of the undead and dark magic. The nightmares of the living, the kings of the undead. Although I take these to be the envy of the mediocre and the slander of the hypocritical, these discriminations did, undeniably, bring me quite the amount of trouble. At least, in Sulphur Mountain City, where internal fighting was banned, I had to deal with several evil-slaying hero parties or evil lair soloing adventurers every month. Most of the time, however, they were incapable of even breaking the barrier of my house. Yet, at times, I would still welcome them in, especially when I lacked experimental materials. Like now. I must kill you. Don't touch me there. Damn this tentacle demon. Not here too. I'm sensitive there. Ta. 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 No. I'm begging you, kill me please, kill me please. Kill me if you have the guts. Just last week, the half-elf adventurer currently suffering in front of me was still threatening boastfully about bringing divine retribution upon this heinous villain. Now, she could only lie motionless in the dirty cell. Let me go. At least. Kill me. Don't. For too many times, she would be sent to the peak of stimulation and reach a certain state before an intense shout would ring out as her body would tighten, and she would fall back to the ground weakly. Despite losing their focus, those hate-filled eyes would continue to stare lifelessly at me. After half a day, however, her eyes would fill with hatred again. Ayo. Don't look at me like that. Overexcitement is bad for the body. Bastard, bastard, bastard. Do elves have a limited vocabulary for abuses, or did your language teacher die too early? You know, using the same word over and over again won't excite me. You rogue. The numerous days of torture in this cell had eroded the will of the female adventurer, but her pride as a high elf still remained. Even after exceeding the limits of her stamina, the golden-haired girl would continue to mumble her curses at me. Okay, you have rested enough. Let the next round begin. Snap. With the snap of my fingers, countless black tentacles started to move again. These demons summoned from the pink book could no longer resist the allure of being in close proximity to a female. No. I am begging you. Let me go. But it was a pity that there was no reason for my summoned demons to listen to the pleadings of a prisoner. I can't stand the tickling. Yes, it's just tickling. I am a good man, you know. I wouldn't do anything illegal. It's not up to you. Tentacles, give a heavy sentence to her waist and her neck. They're her weak points. Ha. He. Kill me, you bastard. Ha ha. As expected from a punishment that female adventurers were terrified of. Under the assault of numerous tentacles, she quickly ended up rolling on the floor, laughing crazily. Bah. Serves you right. You barged into my house without permission. This is obviously a criminal act. If I don't settle this score, everyone would just take me as an easy target. Of course, I wouldn't do anything that wasn't beneficial. Wasting my mana just to punish her, how could that be possible? I am begging you, I admit my loss. I give up. I will accede to any of your requests. No need, seeing you in agony is the best way you can contribute. Looking at the numbers on the screen increase gradually, I couldn't help but sigh. It has already been 3 days, but I have only gained 2 evil points. How long will it take me to reach 100,000 evil points so that I can revive my body? Pining for a blissful sex life. 3 that many look forward to. I gazed downwards, only to see my own body that consisted only of bones. Very quickly, however, my sight turned towards the other unfortunate ones in the cells. Punishing evildoers is also a kind act. For my points, no. For justice, for my blissful sex life, no. To become a good person, your agony is required for my happiness. So just give up. In each cage were prisoners of varying races, such as the Taurens, the elves and the most populous of all, the humans. Let me go. I am innocent. Don't come here. Wails of agony and cries to be spared could be heard, but the Lich simply ignored them all. In fact, those who were harsher with their mouths were whipped silent by the skeleton soldiers keeping guard. Roar, human, rapist, guilty on 6 accounts and has been arrested 3 times. However, due to his good brother, the leader of a gang in the harbor area, who intimidated the victims, there were none willing to report him. In the end, the High Court of Sulphur Mountain City was forced to release him due to insufficient evidence. It was just that at this moment, the young master of the gang was the one shouting miserably. Since you are so fond of mating, I shall allow you to mate to your heart's content. Thus, I found a couple 3-meter-tall ogres to play with him every day. However, they were all male and a certain something was thicker than the leg of a human. Alright, since his current state in his cage was so appalling that even I feel disgusted just by talking about it, let's talk about his neighbor instead. Gold, goblin, professional swindler. Although he had dozens of cases filed against him, his way of handling matters was so superb that his victims often lacked decisive evidence against him. Also, this lad was willing to spend the money to hire the best lawyers in Sulphur Mountain City. Thus, he has managed to escape the reaches of the justice to date. At this moment, this gambler was sitting red-eyed, thoroughly engaged in his duel. I won. Your money is mine now. You have to abide by your promises to let me go. I have 4 kings. The undead card player opposite to him, however, merely laughed and flashed his cards. 4 aces, a hand just slightly better than Diaz. No, impossible. You've already won 767 matches consecutively. You cheater. A cheating method that has yet to be caught is legal, isn't that what you often said? Alright, how about you tell me where you have hidden your fortune and secrets instead? I will redeem myself the next match. The undead card player was, of course, cheating with a special deck of cards that I had infused magic in. The undead player was able to manipulate the cards directly, making it impossible for Dia to win. If it was any other normal person, they would have long given up after losing a few hundred rounds. However, Dia, whose eyes went red from gambling, was just a step away from his freedom and his fortune. How could he give up now? The undead card player didn't have to use any schemes to lure Dia into playing his game, he only had to flash his cards to attract the idle Dia, who was greedy down to his bones, to join in on his own accord. If I were to win just one match, I would be able to recoup everything. Thus, just like the victims he had swindled before, his greed pulled him into the abyss, making him lose his life savings in mere moments. Truthfully, I had no interest in his swindling tactics or his secrets. But every time he lost a match, the anger and unwillingness from the depths of his heart would bring me more evil points. In comparison, his neighbor, who was already numb at this point, was giving me fewer and fewer evil points. This was hell, a hell that belonged solely to me. It was prison housing those who had conducted heinous crimes, but for numerous reasons, the judges of Sulphur Mountain City were unable to pass an appropriate judgment upon them. My unreliable system was able to extract power from other people's pain or misfortune, and as a good person, I could only choose the route of punishing evil to encourage kindness. Thus, making use of certain connections, I got these bastards here as fodder for my evil Lich system. The solo Hell Raider adventurer could be said to have the best treatment here already. Anyways, she had only broken a couple flower pots and had destroyed a few skeleton gardeners. After playing with her for a few more days, I will set her free. As for the others, they were all villains who warranted the death penalty. I would make them suffer as much as they had done to others. For example, making a rapist feel what it was like to be raped, letting a swindler enjoy the sensation of being duped of his life savings, making robbers and burglars feel how it was like to have something stolen from them, and causing the profiteers who purposely stockpile to create a famine know how it felt to sleep on a mountain of gold yet be unable to buy even a single slice of bread. Lunatic. You lunatic. Please let me go. Doing things that hurt others but didn't bring any benefits didn't have any meaning. Their pain, through my nameless system, would turn into my power and would lay the foundation for my resurrection. I'm not crazy, you're the crazy one. You crazy Lich. I am begging you, let me go. I'm willing to do anything. Crazy Lich? Quite a few people have claimed that I have gone mad, but the first to say it was that person. I stroked my chin with my forefinger as I tried to recall. Exactly when did I start to go mad? Was it during my previous life, when I had insisted on being a fair and righteous judge yet ended up being stripped of my position and exiled out of the industry, not even being able to serve as a lawyer? Was it when I had reincarnated into this world with this weird system, thinking that I was the protagonist of this world and promised to bring prosperity to my family and my people, only to find that the cruel fate planned for me couldn't be changed, and I lost my country, my family, and my kin? Or was it when I swore revenge on the gods and the hypocrites as I brought about an incomplete body and formed a great legion of undead, but on that very route to my vengeance, I realized that my back was filled with mountains of corpses and rubble and that I was no different from those hypocrites and ambitious people, putting on a righteous front yet bringing about disaster and tragedy? Or maybe, from the very start, after realizing the truth of this world, the me who has memories from 2 lives had already gone mad. Note: 1. According to Wikipedia, in human anatomy, the tibia is the second largest bone next to the femur. As in other vertebrates, the tibia is one of 2 bones in the lower leg, the other being the fibula, and is a component of the knee and ankle joints. 2. Chromagus, greater than Hearthstone. Reference 3. Blissful sex life, greater than it is a Chinese pun. It has the same pronunciation as happiness in Chinese. Chapter 2. The Evil Lich System. Legend had it that every transcender who broke through the boundaries of space and time would receive a gift from the world. Yeah, it was commonly known as the Golden Ring, said to be a must-have for every transcender. The Evil Lich System. That was my damned golden ring. A long time ago, it didn't go by this name. It had the beautiful name of the training system of a holy knight, but as soon as I gave up the identity of a holy knight and embarked on the path of dark magic, it ended up with its current name. A long time ago, the daily quests it offered me were to help old grannies cross the road and help little girls find their lost kittens. Those were vastly different to the accursed missions I had been receiving recently. Let's look at the daily quests today. It's the damn choose one of 2 options type again. Destroy a town with a population of 30,000 people or above, reward, 10,000 evil points. Steal lollipops from 3 children, reward, 1 evil point. If neither of the quests is completed, then 2 points will be deducted. TSK. You think I'm stupid? If I really destroyed a town, a crusade of epic ranked holy knights would definitely come hunting me down. Even if I earn the points, there wouldn't be any life left in me to spend them. As such, I casually snatched a lollipop from a passing Taran lolly and watched as the crying girl was pulled away by her mother. I subsequently popped the lollipop into my mouth and grimaced as the clashing sound between the lollipop and my bones resounded in my ears. It was only then did I recall I had lost my sense of taste. Sigh. When can I experience the joy of eating delicious food again? Although mana can make me feel full, it doesn't feel satisfying at all. Despite the mother's attempt to pull her daughter away, the little girl seemed unwilling to give up. She stared at me with her large watery eyes, and hope seemed to bloom within her after noticing my inability to consume food. Do you think this Uncle Lich is only pulling a prank? Do you think I will return the lollipop back to you? Alright, so as to not betray the other party's expectations. Kaka, I bit the lollipop into many pieces before spitting them one by one onto the ground. Boo-hoo. Mom, that weird uncle stole my candy. Don't look, let's go. Just as I expected, A resounding cry pierced through the air. In that instant, my moon lifted as a memory of a certain fearless kid flashed through my mind. Are the undead not entitled to human rights? Ancient magic scrolls were treated like rough paper and vandalized, dragon blood ink was used as color paint, and an alchemy medicine, which had taken me so much trouble to make, was drunk as soda. Even my bones were secretly disassembled just for them to be reassembled again. It was like playing with a puzzle. I had only slept for 2 hours and yet my entire laboratory had turned into a wreck. The destructive power of kids is too scary. Sigh, when can I have my revenge? Thinking about those fearless rascals, especially a certain untamed kid, I uncontrollably ground my teeth in anger. Suddenly, I heard a notice from the system. Ding! Congratulations on successfully driving the 100th young child to tears. Reward, 10 evil points. A lolly that looks like she is 6 years old but is actually 20 years old is a legal lolly. An expired pseudo lolly is evil. Looking at my sudden accomplishment, I felt a surge of joy. The first accomplishment unlocked always warranted me 10 points, which was equivalent to the points I received from completing 10 days worth of daily quests. Following this train of thought, if making 100 of them cry unlocks an accomplishment, then making 1,000 of them cry should have one as well, and the reward will at least be multiplied by several folds. Thus, I turned my attention to the lolas and shotas on the street. Bah! Even if I did not receive a daily quest for it, making those disobedient kids learn how to follow rules and preventing others from suffering the same fate as I are the duties of a good person. What should I play? Right, I can grant life. I shall turn the toys of those rascals into disgusting monsters that run about. In addition, I shall paint their lollipops the color of feces with my magic paint. As a frequent victim of those rascals, simply being reminded of my destroyed magic scrolls and precious classical books was able to provide me with an endless flow of evil ideas. No, that isn't enough. How about I turn their pillow covers into magical beasts that eat humans? That will make them shiver whenever they see a pillow in the future. Right, there is also Avard's black tentacles. I can make them enjoy a ticklish hell. Oh, aren't those rascals afraid of monsters and ghosts? Hee hee. It is time to start rebuilding my undead army. Awaken, my undead calamity. That was the day I finally learned that there were less than 200 kids living in that area. Bringing about a few thousand skeletons, abominations and dullahans on the street seemed to be an overkill. That day, before the town security arrived on the scene to capture me, I had already visited every nook and cranny of the street. Even so, I had only managed to drive 160 of them to tears. Moreover, after the town security members realized that the reason I summoned an army of undead was to exact vengeance on playful kids, their dumbfounded faces and despising looks became my new dark history. Congratulations on simultaneously receiving despising looks from 100 females. You have received the special accomplishment. Did this kid's brain get soaked in water or paste? And you have been awarded the noble title Mentally Disabled Kid. After equipping this title, there is a fixed probability of receiving sympathy from females, but the female's impression of the wearer as a male will be lowered by 100 points. Anyway, I was already used to being played a fool by the system and my reputation was already at its worst. Given the system's affirmation of my charisma evidenced by my -88 charm, it didn't make much of a difference. Even if my luck with the opposite sex was reduced by 100 points, the ending would still the same. I would be unable to land myself a girlfriend. Even though it was only a rational analysis, why did I feel as though my eyes were bleeding tears as these words came out of my mouth? Alright, I was a great wizard who had been single for 300 years, but at the very least, I had exacted my revenge against those rascals. As the memory of those wailing children surfaced, I laughed in satisfaction. An idea about what to write in my diary did hit me. AD 1896. The summer of the year of the dragon, 6th March. The legend known as the Lollipop Hunter incident and the man-eating pillow incident was destined to be forever carved in the memories of the rascals of Sulphur Mountain City. Thenceforth, the kids will remember the terror of that man's dominance evermore. The shame of having one's beloved items taken away, the despair of being eaten by one's own toys, and the fear of being surrounded by the undead. As I thought about what to write in my diary, the system notice sounded out again. Ding! You have unlocked the accomplishment, making 100 kids cry within a day. Reward, 10 evil points. Congratulations, you have been awarded the noble title Bane of Kids. After equipping this title, Lolas and Shotas who are 12 years old and younger will naturally feel threatened by you. As a kind reminder, if you succeed in making 500 children cry in one go, you will be awarded the noble title of Kids Killer, and if you succeed in making 1,000 children cry. The system notice suddenly stopped at this point. I was involuntarily overwhelmed with anticipation. Although this was undeniably a spiteful title, it could be considered to be a blessing in disguise if it could grant me the power to keep those rascals away. In one go, you will be awarded the noble title to argue with kids at your age. Can't you be more mature? Oh, you should thank me. Actually, this should be the title most befitting you at the moment. Shit. I can't tolerate this anymore. Darn system, this is all your fault. You are going down. Master, you got locked up in jail this time for stealing lollipops. Next time, will it be due to stealing a girl's underwear? I really don't want to come here to fetch a pervert. The one currently speaking was my loyal servant, the half-demon residing in my mansion, the silver-haired Elisa. Gold black framed spectacles, silver ponytails, tiger teeth, a purple tail with a butterfly knot at the end and the European-made costume. It perfectly showcased the little demon's character and, at the same, exposed a certain Lich's interest. All along, I was satisfied by Elisa's outer appearance. However, she would truly be perfect if only she could change her personality, expressionless face, and venomous tongue. It's not like you aren't aware of my darn system. Getting points by just making a few little girls cry is what a good person should be doing. Here. She passed a thick photo album to me. Oh, well done, Elisa. As expected of my loyal servant. I can roughly guess what happened. These are the contact details of children attending Sulphur Mountain City's largest kindergarten. I have carefully picked out the names on the list, and it should now be convenient for you to finish your quest. Well done. To think that I was convinced you were looking forward to my death so that you can regain your freedom. I guess it was all a misunderstanding on my part. Good job, you are a good person as well. Let me see. Upon opening the list of contact details, however, my face turned bitter. Contact details for the 3 children of Sulphur City's Holy Church Archbishop's kindergarten, the daughter of Dragon Slayer Amro, who just started going to kindergarten, and War Gods and So's precious son. Are you sure you're trying to help me and not trying to send me to hell? My anger, as usual, was disregarded by the other party. The half-demon young lady pushed her spectacle frame upwards as a cold gleam reflected off the lenses. The great reputation of the lollipop hunter has already spread throughout the entire Sulphur Mountain City. I am criticized the moment I leave the mansion. For the sake of this lady's, 3 reputation, I would really like to change my job. Or rather, master, you should start paying the salary you owe me for the past 10 years. Ha ha ha, let's not talk about money, it sours relationships, you know. Let's go, I can't wait to return to our warm home. A gentleman should not engage in escapism, and please don't change the topic. Why are you making me run with you? What are you planning this time? As expected of my little Elisa who has stayed by my side for so long. Today's daily quest is a splendid explosion, you know, I get it. Please hold on tight, I will now use my monet to escape. A silver go anywhere door, 4 opened and both master and servant hurriedly entered. When the short distance instantaneous movement magic dispersed, there were no longer traces of anyone in our surroundings. In the background, a large explosion suddenly resounded, which was closely followed with the ringing of fire alarms. Delayed bomb? I thought the town security seals the magic of their prisoners? No, it only looks like a bomb, but it's actually flour put together with chili powder and completed with a touch of dust, a dust bomb. It doesn't have much power, so it is insufficient to kill anyone. On top of that, I doubt they will be able to find concrete evidence against me. As expected of the wise Lich. To think you would be able to create a bomb simply made of food ingredients even after having your magic sealed. Thank you, your praise humbles me. No one is praising you. Alright, as a Lich, I guess this can be considered praise. What was a Lich? Not a good person, the most fearsome of undead. This image was probably what most people conjured upon hearing this word. The lump of bones that makes their hair stand on end, the frightening soul fire burning in their eyes, emanating a feeling as though they are engaging in some malicious act. This was the view of normal citizens, the ultimate incarnation of evil, the villainous schemer. This was how the Church's holy knights viewed them, as an undead and the ultimate form of black mages. The Liches, who had only bones remaining, often did not enjoy a good reputation. But slander. It is blatant discrimination. How can one be judged based on their race? I have always thought that race, skin color, social stratification and all kinds of discrimination are simply human foolishness. The world only has lowly people who despise and discriminate others, and there is no such lowly race, skin color or birth. I really am a good person. If a person such as yourself can be considered a good person, then what about the bloodthirsty undead living in the east of the city? Can they be considered saints, then? I wouldn't say they are saints, they are all just cold-faced, warm-hearted pacifists. Just look, the undead are thrifty with their rations and do not take up much space. A single grave can fit an entire family. They do not eat or drink, and they work passionately to complete their jobs. They contribute yet don't demand luxury in return. They are all good people. The half-demon maid laughed. The restricted zone, which housed the rumor of having no living person ever walk out of it alive, was actually viewed as a gathering place for good people by her master. Ho ho, master, you really know how to joke. Bloodthirsty undead are good people? What about the priests of the Holy Church who are well received by the people? They heal the citizens for free and even give out free meals every Sunday to feed those in poverty. They are merely a bunch of hypocrites and pedophiles. You see, Alisa, humans have desires and needs. If one suppresses their desires too much, even if they aren't pedophiles now, then they will turn into them when they are finally unable to suppress their desires any longer and it bursts. Although they say that desires are a sin, they are definitely perverted pedophiles underneath their outer demeanors. I mean, just look at how those old men act so chummy with those little boys. It would be weird to think that there is nothing wrong with them. Also, those single-celled organisms known as holy knights, they are a bunch of barbarians who threaten to kill me whenever they see me. Fine, master, I get that your illness is acting up again. I guess even that ancient red dragon, who lives in the Sulphur Mountains, is feared by all as the disaster of Erin, 5, and also destroyed a country by herself, is a docile and cute being in master's eyes, huh? No, Little Red hasn't been paying much attention to her diet nowadays and is getting a little bit overweight. If she were to lose 20 to 30 tons and shed that extra fat to bring out the curves, she will be even cuter. Then, what about the awe-inspiring and helpful Dark Elf Town security who maintains the peace of the city? You should be quite close with them, right? Just counting these 2 months, I have been in and out of the prison 5 times just to fetch you. You can try asking those unlucky store owners who have been tyrannized by them. My views are the same as them. TSK. A bunch of crazy bitches. Our Freedom Gentlemen Alliance are arch enemies with them. Shaking her head in frustration, she ignored the suspicious-sounding organization that her master spoke of and continued her questioning. Then what about our city lord, who saved the world and had his name spread far and beyond? He raised the flag of equality and established the city in the chaotic underground world, creating a land of peace for different races to coexist on a land constantly ravaged by war. A severe Chonobu, 6 patient who has been sick for a few hundred years. How old is he, to still be playing hero and slaying the Demon King to save the world? Such an old-fashioned story. Serves him right to be single his entire life. You really dare to say it, huh? You messed with 2 of his weddings and now everyone's saying that he is destined to remain single. Upon birth, he brings misfortune to his family. Going on an adventure, he brings misfortune to his brothers. With regards to marriage, he brings misfortune to his spouse. He has such great qualifications coupled with good looks, but because of you, not a single lady in Sulphur Mountain City is willing to accept his proposal now. It is not as though I did it intentionally. Does he have to hold the grudge for so long? Not as though you did it intentionally. You did it purposely, didn't you? Let's not talk about how you made me spread the rumors about how he was cursed by heavens to remain single. At his wedding, you created an undead calamity, setting ghosts free to wander about. Do you know how many girls you frightened that night? I was just celebrating his wedding for him. Seeing how that old bachelor was finally getting married, I was simply too happy and brought a few hundred ghosts to do the robot dance. Who knew that his wife-to-be would be so frightened that she peed on the spot? Despite rejecting her claims of it being an intentional act, I was secretly satisfied with my work. Bah! Since I haven't resurrected to possess a complete body yet, how can I allow him to enjoy a blissful sex life? Master, do you know you have the habit of putting your hands on your hips and stomping your feet whenever you get excited? Look, your evil intentions are spilling out right now. Fine, let's not talk about your great results. What about your Lich brethren in the Empire of Undead Zilluo? Those guys are on the wanted list in many countries, and if any single one of them were to get out, the world will definitely be plunged into chaos. Actually, it is just a misunderstanding that everyone has against us. Isn't the reason why we study the profound intricacies of the cycle of life and death just to allow everyone to have longer lives? Actually, we specialize in treatment as well. Whether you're talking about the effectiveness of the treatments or the possible side effects arising from the treatments, our treatments are much better than those of the priests. Don't just look at how convenient their holy light is. It actually consumes the person's life force and shortens their lifespan. Our art of biological reengineering is toxic-free, harm-free, pollution-free, and best of all, we solve the root of the problem at one go. Then why are you depending on this system to revive yourself? Why don't you just make a body for yourself? I don't want to be a deformed monster with 3 hands and 6 legs. Even if it is a perfect humanoid shape, problems will occur sooner or later. Seeing the low level of confidence that the Lich himself had in his biological reengineering skills, what else could Elisa say? Fine, then in your eyes, how do I fare? A cold-faced demonic old granny? A neck-up young lady? Of course, I wouldn't be so dumb to voice these words out loud. Oh, Elisa, you are of course my most trusted subordinate. We once made a promise to fulfill our dream of conquering the stars. Before you realize your dreams in the stars, shouldn't you first pay this poor lonely girl her salary, which you have owed for over 10 years? Knowing that her master's illness was acting up once again, the silver-haired half-demon propped up her glasses, a cold gleam shining on the surface of the spectacles as cold words spat out from between her teeth. If you continue to be so flippant, I guess your treasured collections are going to. Fine, Elisa, I apologize. Worried about his precious collections, a certain Lich immediately surrendered. HMPH. Succeeding in subduing her superior, the fallen angel hummed a tune as she sashayed out the door. As the housekeeper of the mansion, she did not have the luxury to waste time on her Chonobu master. However, as I stared at her dejected back, my mood took a dive. A moment after she walked out the door, memories started to flood my mind, and I mumbled to myself, I guess, grudgingly, she can be considered family. I still remember the girl who, even under the worst conditions, even when she was floating in the river Styx, persevered on and refused to give up. She is also the girl who hunted in the night of a blizzard just to stay alive. You are probably the best thing this world has given me, and bringing you back is the best decision I ever made in my life. Suddenly, a face popped out from behind the door. Its usual coldness was tainted by an emerging bright red color, which spread to her long, trembling ears. After which, she disappeared behind the door once again. Hee hee. Although you know me well, do you think I wouldn't understand you as well? You foolish evil granny. Even if you are sly, you still have to repay the debt you owe me obediently until your death. I spoke these harsh words out loud and laughed maniacally. However, in my heart, I panicked. She heard it. She definitely heard it. Note: 1. Golden ring is a term commonly used in games and novels to refer to cheat-like abilities or certain unfair advantages. 2. There is a net rumor that says if a guy remains single for 30 years, he will become a wizard. 3. She is referring to herself in third person. 4. The Go Anywhere door is similar to the one Erman uses to travel around. 5. Disaster of Erin may be a reference to some D&D, but I'm not really sure of the exact translation. 6. Chonobu refers to people who are caught up in their fantasies, like I have a sealed cursed hand and if released it will destroy the whole world, etc. That isn't from me. Chapter 3, Gakuben. 9 yen, 1, White Bone Claws. Following the tradition where one had to shout out the skill's name while using it, I roared as my claw struck down heavily on the body of the skeleton soldier. Kaka. 2 bones fractured simultaneously. Looking at the otherworldly secret manual named 9 Yin White Bone Claw, 2, in front of me, I used my mana to regrow my injured fingers while I sighed in frustration. Another useless object. I had definitely fulfilled the conditions of possessing white bones and claws. I had even substituted the 9 Yin with ice elemental magic. This should be compatible with the skill, but I was still unable to use it. I casually threw it to one side, placing it together with the rest of its seniors from other worlds, forming a collection unvisited by anyone. Yes, this was a product that originated from another world. From the introduction stated on the secret manual, it seemed to be an extremely powerful offensive magic, capable of penetrating anything and usable under any circumstances. Exactly where did I go wrong? My interpretation shouldn't be wrong. Doesn't in simply refer to ice and the negative attribute? 9 means a lot, so I made sure to produce a lot of ice, and I also have my bone claw. Then, why is it not working? But then again, if the books on complex magic from this world were to be put in another world, they would be nothing but useless trash as well. 18 Subduing Dragon Bombs. 3. The legendary magic rumored to be capable of destroying dragons. Initially, I thought I could finally seek payback from Little Red, but in the end, I almost died from just one of her strikes. To make things worse, she even ridiculed me by making me do the skeleton dance. Buddha's Palm. 4. It may sound very mighty, but this is obviously holy magic used to curb those of the dark and evil attribute. If I were to really learn it, I should maybe consider allowing those priests of the holy light to brainwash me. These otherworldly secret manuals were all obtained from my unreliable system's Gakuben. At the start of every month, the system would give me a single chance at the Gakuben function, allowing me to choose among mystical secret manuals, godly equipment, or unique and rare treasures. Even though there was a greater than 90% probability that I would get something useless, I still chose to draw among the mystical secret manuals, gambling for that less than 10% chance of receiving a true treasure. In fact, beside the pile of unusable secret manuals was an extremely old bookshelf. Placed on it were the treasures I would occasionally get. Discussing the organization structure of the Undead army and its manpower allocation to overcome blind spots. Teaching you how to theoretically maximize the fighting power of your Undead army. Kel'Thuzad. 5. The mystery of the past and the present. The restriction of space and time. Totally pointless. I am the true master of space and time. Raceland Majir. 6. The way to create soul equipment and phylacteries. How can you call yourself a final boss when you get destroyed in a single round? Convert to an undead to revive 10 to 20 times and disgust your opponent to death. Tom Marvolo Riddle. 7. The 18 basic self-defense strokes for mages. Let Uncle Mordenkainen teach you how to fight physically. Who said that mages can't use martial arts? Ada. Wag. 8. Magic Puppet Army and Large AO War Spells. Evangeline's choice of graceful magic spells. A true great magician doesn't dirty his own hands. Let your subordinates drown your enemies. Let your enemies die without even catching sight of you. Such magic classics filled half of the bookshelf. These profound magic knowledge books that came from other worlds were collection items that I treasured more than my own life. For a lich who had given up his own body in pursuit of endless knowledge, this otherworldly magic knowledge was more important than anything else. But, to ascertain whether these magic spells were workable, was, indeed, a very troublesome task. It seemed that the only way to deduce the usability of this knowledge, which came from many different worlds, was to try them myself. 6 Pulse Heavenly Sword, Twanyu version. 9. Isn't this just a watered-down version of a laser? Although shooting light swords out of the 5 fingertips is creative, what does fixed probability that it may work mean? To rely on such an unreliable skill, isn't that making light of one's life? This is probably only suitable for protagonists who depend on their luck to survive. The biggest bullshit of all is that crossing the river with a reed technique. 10. What floating magic that does not expend mana? What the lighter one's body weight is, the better one is able to unleash this skill. I am only bones and yet I sink instantly. In the end, Elisa even had to find a fisherman to hook me up from the river. How embarrassed I was then. Master, the evil points from the underground prison for this month has been tallied. We collected a total of 39 points, 2 points less than last month. We have 2 prisoners who are unable to generate any more points. I suggest we replace them. Elisa's reminder reminded me that it was once again the start of a new month. This time, I was determined to get something good. Great Lich system. Following my command, a golden interface appeared in front of me. There were only 3 choices available: Gakpan, Quest, and Strengthen. Quests could be divided into daily quests and main storyline. Daily quests normally consisted of mundane tasks in exchange for small rewards. As for the main storyline, its menu was displayed in gray, which apparently indicated its locked status at the moment due to unknown reasons. Strengthen was another function that I had prior experimentation with. Reflected on the choices interface were my stats, albeit it also being colored in gray, indicating its unavailability. Nonetheless, this was not due to the malfunctioning of the system but, rather, my personal issue. Roland missed, male Lich, phylactery wounded, unable to strengthen until phylactery is repaired, strength 5 agility 5 intelligence 30 charm -88 willpower 5, 10 is the base stat of an average human. Other than a mage's main attribute, intelligence, the rest are trashy. 5, job, LV60 mage, LV1 lich, LV20 law encounter, total LV81, fighting power evaluation LV79, golden pinnacle mage, soul imprint, mark of justice, the crown of undead, damaged, the ice shredder, damaged, son of light, destroyed. Ah, my fighting prowess fell by so much. Iron bloodline, bronze body, silver pride, golden will, respected legend, world saint, immortal myth, and indestructible semi-god. To think my rank dropped from semi-god to gold in such a short period of time. A soul imprint was the crystallization of immortal breaking into the realm of legends. It was the convergence of one's life, experience, and strength, the stepping stone to even greater heights. Since each person only possessed one life, they could only have one soul imprint. I, on the other hand, had 4 soul imprints. Unlike the other short-lived humans, I had experienced 4 lives whereby my 4 soul imprints were representation of me dying 3 times and entering the realm of legends 4 times. The Master of Ice, the King of the Dead, the one blessed by holy light, they were all once my pride and glory. But, at this instant, they were damaged and incomplete. However, to still be able to remain so lively after experiencing death 3 times, I guess I should be feeling satisfied. Moreover, considering the damage to my soul imprints and ignoring my inability to get stronger, the very fact that I was still alive was already an incredible feat in itself. It was just like what my comrade, nicknamed Voldemort in another world, had said. Without reviving a few dozen times and transforming 3 to 5 times, how could I be considered as the ultimate boss? Although significant amounts of losses were sustained with each time I perished, overstepping the boundaries of death and returning to the human world was able to garner me higher returns as well. The first time I died in battle, I had barely stepped into the realm of legends. The second time, I had managed to reach the 6th rank, Saint Pinnacle. Nevertheless, it was only right before my most recent death 100 years ago that my phylactery got damaged, causing my fighting prowess to dip steeply. At that time, I had already attained the 8th rank, semi-god. The loss of memories and valuable knowledge does make my heart ache, but overall, there is still improvement. However, it is so humiliating to die here and there, especially getting killed in the streets time and time again, which made my reputation plummet. On top of that, I have to change my armor again. Anyway, I wasn't really feeling discouraged since this wasn't my first time having to start from scratch. As a matter of fact, as long as I could earn sufficient points to repair my phylactery or even recreate my body, with the help of the system, retraining would help me reach even higher grounds. Even if bones are all that are left of me, I will persevere. Of course, I already had enough of being a lich. Although my talent in ice magic and necromancy is superb, my stats are too skewed. If I want to climb higher, a perfect living physical body is something I need to have. Cough. It definitely isn't because I no longer wish to remain a bachelor after witnessing many couples get married. Who dares to despise me? The number of undead in the east part of the city getting married isn't small in number, and those of the blood tribe have even created families. Then, why is it that although we are all undead, Liches have to be single for life. Liches also need love. Liches were built slightly different from other beings whereby their souls weren't infused into their bodies. Instead, it was placed in a treasure chest, the phylactery. As long as the phylactery remained undestroyed, even if they were killed, they would just revive on the spot after a period of time. However, if something were to happen to their phylactery, experiencing a steep fall in fighting prowess and being stripped of the power to grow stronger for over a century could already be considered a positive outcome, just like in my scenario. However, in the case of mages, knowledge was equivalent to power. Therefore, despite the restrictions on the growth of my fighting prowess as a result of my phylactery being destroyed, this otherworldly knowledge was able to bring me great returns. Repairing the phylactery takes 80,000 points while recreating a body only takes 100,000 points. How foolish would I have to be to use my points to repair my phylactery? Sneaking a peek at the 49,763 points reflected on the system's screen, I lamented over the fact that I was not even halfway through accumulating sufficient points for my resurrection. I sighed and turned my attention towards the final option, Gakupin. Gakupin draws were only available once a month. Other than secret manuals, it also offered godly weapons and unique and rare treasures. However, speaking from experience, I normally wouldn't choose either of those two. Earlier draws had gotten me an evil-slaying sacred sword that almost killed me, a fountain of life that actually had a natural ability to drive away evil, and an East's exotic red fruit that was all natural and boosted one's longevity. Although the East's exotic red fruit may seem like a good draw, how am I supposed to consume it when I don't even have a digestive system? In the end, I fed it, along with the fountain of life, to my dog without a second thought. Forget it, knowledge is power. I guess I better obediently try my luck with the secret manuals. On my command, the golden roulette started to spin. The art of mass teleportation, the art of great destruction, the secret to manipulating beasts. Hurry and stop. The roulette spun faster and faster. The holy judgment, the plans of fate, the secret manuals of the holy church that are reserved only for the top brass. Even if these are of no use to me, I can still sell them to the holy church. There is pretty good stuff included in the draw this time. Hurry and stop. The roulette spun even faster. Triple times F cult flame interrogation magic manual. 11, sounds like it will fit me perfectly. Hurry and stop. Alright, the pictures on the roulette couldn't be seen clearly anymore. This was the part about Gakupin that depresses most people. Although the treasures were right in front of you, the roulette would just spin right over what you want. Furthermore, it was a once-in-a-month opportunity, so I was unwilling to close my eyes and quietly wait for the results. Finally, after 10 torturous seconds of valuable secret manuals flashing past my eyes, the cruel roulette stopped. Sunflower Bible, let elder sister Dongfeng teach you how to weave flowers. 12. What is this? Even the needlework for weaving flowers can become a secret manual? Even so, a glimmer of expectation resided within me. Wasn't there a saying from the past that experts were often eccentric? Maybe the weaver was also legendary expert. However, it didn't take long before the cruel reality struck me hard once again. Isn't it stated in there that anyone who does not possess the root of desire is eligible to practice this? All I have left are bones, so why am I still unable to practice this skill? Note: 1. Yin is normally associated with females, coldness, and the moon. 2. The 9-yin white bone claw is a skill from a very famous Chinese wuxia trilogy by Jin Yuang, the Condor trilogy. 3. 18 Subduing dragon palms, a fictional martial arts skill that appears in multiple Jin Yuang novels, such as The Legend of the Condor Heroes, The Return of the Condor Heroes, and Demigods and Semi-Devils. 4. The Palm of God, or Buddha's palm, is a skill used in classic Chinese movies and, more recently, in Kung Fu Hustle. 5. WoW reference. 6. Race Lemagir is a fictional character from the Dragonlance series of books created by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman. 7. Reference to a certain series about witchcraft and wizardry. 8. D&D reference. 9. Luma Shinjian Duan Yu Ban, the 6-pulse heavenly sword, Tuan Yu version, is a pretty godly skill in Demigods and Semi-Devils. One of the protagonists, Tuan Yu, happened to learn this skill by chance, but due to his lack of proficiency, The skill sort of only works on a chance basis. 10. Yue Dujang, reed, is a reference to a story of how Bodhidharma crossed the river by riding on a reed he plucked by the riverside. 11. A joke in the series Baka and Test, Summon the Beasts. In the series, people who get confessed to or hangs out with girls etc., will be kidnapped by a group of people and brought back to be interrogated. You all should check it out if you all never watched this anime. 12. One of the top martial arts skill in the Smiling, Proud Wanderer. In the story, there is an evil cult called Sun Moon Holy Cult. A man in the cult known as Dongfeng Bei usurped the position of the cult leader through schemes, stole the Sunflower Bible from the previous master, and practiced it to become probably the strongest person in the series. It is known for this saying, if you want to practice this skill, direct your knife towards your manhood. That's why he is called Dongfang's sister. He becomes more and more feminine in the series. Chapter 4, The Indefatigable One. Karma, or rather fate, exists. Without any external influence, the apple would eventually land on the floor, rot, and become the seed for the next harvest. If a farmer were to come and harvest the apple, it would still be a part of fate for the garden and the apple itself because the farmer could be still considered as part of the garden. The act of harvesting could be said to be a fixed route of fate for the apple. However, if a tourist from overseas were to walk through the garden and casually pick an apple, then the apple would leave with the tourist and the farmer would be unable to pick the apple. Everyone's fate would change along with the tourist. And that casual action of the otherworldly visitor had unknowingly changed what fate had in plan for everyone. This was because his actions weren't in line with what the world had planned. His mindless act had changed the originally rigid fate of things and eventually triggered a series of effects known as the butterfly effect. There was always someone responsible for each and every injustice in the world. Similarly, every deed in the world has a creditor. The effects of karma would have to be borne by the transcenders. That system of mind took these effects of karma and converted them into evil, kind points. Under my will, the system acted like a wish granter, causing ripples of effects in the world. 1. Of course, this what I learned from only my own research. It could be correct, but it could also be wrong. However, after a fortuitous event, a game walkthrough book from another world made me more convinced about the possibility of this theory. The Great Ike Purgatory War, this is the name of the game. The book that I drew from the system's Gakapin records every single happening in this classic game in its 30 years of operation. And the world I was in was called Ike. So, the world that I live in was only a game in another world? I wasn't surprised or shocked. From a rational viewpoint, there was a history of those who dreamt about other worlds and seers who had broken through the confine of time and space in the great world of Ike. In fact, this was common knowledge here and was sufficient to explain everything. As for the purgatory part, there had been 7 large-scale updates, which meant that the order in this world was overturned 7 times. In the 7 crises that almost destroyed the world, the continent became a land of living hell. The confident me of then who believed that he was a hero blessed by the gods, capable of changing everything, realized that after the 3rd update, the name of the final boss was actually Roland Mist. The demon overlord Roland Mist returns from the depths of the abyss. With his army of demons, he swore revenge against all of the living. Endless armies of undead and demons swept the world into chaos, destroying countless countries and reaping countless lives. Roland Mist. Wasn't that my name? I actually became the final boss destined to destroy the entire world. However, reality wasn't a game. Demon lords don't always fall. Or rather, the me who was then known as the Son of Light had no reason to become an evil demon of chaos. But then everything still happened. The darkness hidden within the depths of the Holy Church, the betrayal from people I trusted the most, and the nobles and royalties who added insult to the injury caused me, who was a heroic holy knight, to gradually walk away from my faith and step into the darkness. However, I knew about the plans fate had in store of me. As a transcender who possessed control over his own life, how could I simply allow all this to happen? Thus, I did many things in an attempt to overcome fate. As a transcender with the power of karma on my side, changing my personal fate wasn't that difficult. However, changing the fate of the entire world wasn't such an easy thing. After all, after a series of coincidences, all my hard work became for naught. I failed and the currents of fate easily crushed me, causing everything to walk the path fate had paved out originally. The current me, after dying again and again, was barely living in this world as a lich. Thus, I was incapable of becoming the demon lord who tried to destroy the world. It was a pity, however. My foolish twin brother, Carwin's Mist, replaced this useless brother of his and had done many mind-blowing great things, eventually walking into the gates of purgatory. Maybe, before long, I would need to face the demon lord named Carwin's Mist. Thus, no matter what, I must live on. Even with this incomplete and damaged soul of mine, I must still live on until the day Carwin's return to the surface. Therefore, no matter what, I needed strength. Regardless of which world it came from, whether the strength was righteous or not. This is a solemn promise from I, Roland Mist. I will resolve the problems that I had created. Thus, even if I have to soil my own hands, even if I must become unscrupulous, I will gather sufficient evil points to revive myself, become stronger, and deal with that foolish brother of mine. Master Lich, just interrupting for a moment, do the things that you just said have anything to do with the current situation? Before you continue with your impassioned speech, please return back to reality and look behind you. Just as I was getting more and more riled up, my companion ruined my moment. I turned back and looked. All the dark elves who were currently chasing me were cutting close. Their eyes were blood red from their lack of sleep, and their originally beautiful oval faces had been distorted from hatred. Judging from how deep their grudges appeared to be, it didn't seem to be a good time to reason with them. Don't run, you bastards. I will skin you alive. He he he. Hand those bones to me. Hand them to me. My dowry, my 30 years of hard work, gone in a single night. Momo has already bought seaweed and chili. Tonight, I am going to eat pork ribs soup. The pork ribs in front, are you listening? You are going to be the main dish for tonight. Stop. It seemed that the grudges from yesterday's explosion really weren't trivial. I would be a fool if I were to stop now. I cast a floating spell on myself and hastened my footsteps. This time, I overdid it a little. The town's security troops were equipped for war. If I were to be caught by them, even though I was just bones and could not be skinned, I would be taken apart and fed to the dogs. However, I wasn't the only one being chased. The Bar brothers, why are they chasing you too? Were you two selling counterfeit goods again? The Bar brothers were well-known dishonest merchants, even among the greedy goblins. As long as you paid sufficient money, drugs, counterfeits, and similar items, they had it all. Furthermore, to save money from paying taxes, they didn't even bother to apply for a license. Naturally, this kind of dishonest merchant would often come head to head with the town security. Through these clashes of revolution, we had forged a deep bond of friendship. Who knows what's wrong with those bitches? It seems that some fool had offended those crazy bitches. Since yesterday afternoon, they had conducted a search on the entire city, shouting phrases like swiftly and heavily, "We shall severely punish those committing crimes, destroy those illegal traders and return Sulphur Mountain City its blue sky." TSK. The master engineer Jinyabar was the older brother, and at this moment, his thick, lush hair had been shaved. He was extremely pissed. Although his looks are so-so, the system showed me that he was a LV-59 Goblin Master Engineer, just a step away from the LV-60 gold rank. This bunch of lasses are incredible. Although the town security is lacking in personnel, it is amazing how their entire force is composed of solely Holy Knights. Holy Knight is a tanking job, resilient to attacks. Furthermore, not mentioning how they are equipped with dwarf mithril chain mails, dark elves are blessed with strong magic resistance and a resilient physique, similar to a steel can. Some of their leading figures are even armed with godly weapons. With this kind of equipment and personnel, they could be pulled to fight a war between gods and demons, much less operate as the town security in a city. Yingubara was the younger brother. During his search and arrest, his clothes had been burned and his tools destroyed, which resulting in his overflowing anger at this moment. A LV-57 master alchemist, he should have specialized in the treatment of patients. However, it was the nature of those related to the goblins to be unreliable. At least, as far as I could remember, half of the medicine that Yingyu made would explode upon consumption. The other half, they would explode even when unconsumed. Endure it. Sulphur Mountain has been dominated by the 3,000 strong town security for more than a day or two. Those accursed gold coins, Their equipment weren't that advanced in the past. Wait till I find out who was the one who betrayed us and sold such good equipment to them for mere profit. I will definitely make him unable to survive in Sulphur Mountain City. Other than the gingerhead dwarf on Flower Street, who else could it be? Other than a master smither like him who specialized in armor, who else could make a mithril chainmail of such level? When I shake those lasses off my tail, I will smash his shop. Who asked him to bring harm to his brothers? I remained quiet. If my comrades were to know that the town security's holy swords were bought from me, that I was the intermediary for the sale of the chainmail and that it was I who had struck a legal deal with them to let me off at once, we probably would be unable to remain as friends. Old cow, what happened? Usually, they would just overlook you. Did you do something recently? A tall Tauren warrior ran beside us. He possessed a square face and an honest smile hung on it. His innocent eyes were filled with righteousness and bewilderment, as though he was ignorant of the reason he was being pursued. I didn't do anything. I was just thirsty and wanted to drink some milk. After all, theirs are so big, so they should have quite a bit of milk in them. Isn't it normal for Taurens to want to drink milk? Isn't it normal for a nature-loving Tauren to be nude? Why must they chase with me so furiously with weapons? 2. Even though his square face looked incomparably honest, and his innocent voice tinged with the grief of being falsely accused, he was a pervert. Even when confusion and righteousness spelled out on his face, he was still a nudist. At the current moment, he was completely naked. His fit and wild body caused the females by the roadside to scream non-stop as he waved his hands in sync with the movement of a certain object. The Bull Demon King is here again. 3. Mommy, it's so scary. I can't get married anymore. Where? Let me see how long his toothpick is, to dare to wave it around. Ho ho ho. As expected of a Tauren, so it seems that it isn't a toothpick but a mace. The Tauren in front, please hold on. Let me give it a try. The sounds of screaming and mysterious noises that echoed from the back made him even more complacent, inducing him to perform bodybuilder poses amidst his run, thus generating all kinds of screams among the crowd. Although most may know him as a pervert, they were not aware that Tauren Xuidi, through my eyes, was a LV-89 legend warrior. Even in Sulphur Mountain City, where many strong people gathered, he was considered as the cream of the crop. But, no matter how strong he was still a pervert. I had to say it twice because it was very important. Damn. They have blessed Silver Arrows, Emperor Orlaw's sacred sword and the Angel Slayer. Shit. To even have dozens of nameless evil slaying holy swords, even the extravagant All-End Kingdom aren't as outrageous as they are. Lilith, leading at the forefront of those being chased was Lilith Milan. Known as the Prince of the Night, she had a reputation for being a passionate Casanova in the entire city, and she was the dream of countless rich young ladies in the underground world. It was just that for someone who viewed her disposition as important as her life, her attire was now battered. Even a LV-72 gold-ranked Blood Tribe assassin could only escape frantically in the presence of such a powerful enemy. That's right. She's a her and not a him. Her other nicknames include the Frenzied Wild Lilith, the Sentimental Milan, and the Moving Obscenity and Female. Due to the common fate of being suppressed and beaten down by the town security, the Freedom Gentleman Alliance was created, better known as the Gentleman Alliance. To the nudist Tauren, the Moving Obscenity and the Explosion Maniac brothers, the Gentleman Alliance was just another name. After our comrades were captured by the operation swiftly and heavily, we shall severely punish those committing crimes. The only survivors at this moment were the stronger top brass of the Alliance. The Lich who has a screw loose. Even the weakest Lich is of legend rank, so turn back and cast a great cleavage on those bitches. Lilith, if it was 300 years ago, I could give it a try. However, my phylactery is damaged at the moment and my control over magic is unstable. Well, I could still cast great cleavage, it's just that I am unable to direct it at my target accurately. Of course, it is impossible for me to die once more, but are you sure about it? Roland. 4. Great Cleavage was a powerful spell used by the best mages. Legend had it that it was capable of destroying anyone it struck. However, I had no interest in classic spells. Not to mention that my phylactery was currently damaged, it was impossible for me to unleash such a spell. However, even though I might lose out to them in terms of fighting prowess, I refuse to lose in a verbal war. TSK. Useless. As expected, Once I mentioned the possibility of the spell going out of control, they, who were afraid of death, wouldn't allow me to use it. However, if the town security troops were to continue pursuing me like this, my good person reputation that I had been trying to build up would go down the drain. Thus, I decided to make my move. Slippery oil spell. I instant cast a one-circle magic, and a large area of oil appeared before us. As a lich, floating through the use of magic was the bare basics. Thus, I simply floated across the oil. What is the use of a one-circle magic? Even the weakest among the fellows behind us is of the bronze rank. In the eyes of the pissed-off Jinya, a one-circle magic spell was useless to any warrior that could fight. But this common sense was only limited to normal mages, and I am no normal mage, you know. Bang! Right after he stopped speaking, Jinya stepped on the ground and fell uncontrollably. No matter how hard he tried, he was unable to stand up anymore. Jinya, I guess the only thing powerful about you is your mouth. See how it can't be. How can it be so slippery? Right after he laughed at his elder brother, his younger brother, Yungu, followed in his footsteps. I improved it. Improvement? More like I reshaped the spell. The normal slippery oil spell only used oil derived from animal fats for the spell. However, I chose to utilize top-grade oil used from machinery. At the same time, I adjusted the level of friction on the road, thus generating zero friction on the surface. After my rank had been locked and I became unable to use higher circle spells, I spent my efforts on improving my current spells. For the normal slippery oil spell, warriors who were slightly more experienced could disregard it altogether. As for my improved slippery oil spell, even though it was just a two-circle spell, gold-ranked warriors still had to tread carefully around it. But my pride immediately crumbled in the face of reality. Using his hoofs as a sleigh, the cow slid across the oil as though he was sliding on ice while throwing glances at the crowd. Despite his seemingly clumsy heavy body, he possessed excellent balance. Well done. I see that the crazy Lich's brain can function properly occasionally. The sly vampire lady jumped on the back of the stupid cow and hitched a ride. Hurry, let's go. Seeing that the town security was closing in the distance, we ignored the Bar brothers who were still struggling in the oil and swiftly left. Just as I had expected, equipped in heavy armor, the Dark Elf town security knights fell down one by one in the oil, creating a huge mess. Damn it, why is it so slippery? After complaining, the vice captain, Victoria, finally got up with much effort, but she slipped and fell once again. Save me. The shouts of help from the Bar brothers drifted towards us. While showcasing his muscles, the cowhead turned around with the intention to head back to save them. However, Lilith pulled him back on track to escape. Those guys are wearing heavy armor, they aren't able to catch up with us. I am not worried about them. If the Bar brothers were to realize that they were unable to escape, surely you wouldn't have forgotten what they have on their bodies? The cowhead might have a slow reaction speed, but he definitely wasn't a fool. After patting his head in realization, he lowered his head and proceeded forward. Boom. Sound of explosions could be heard from our backs, proving that our judgment to leave them behind was correct. Engineers and alchemists were already experts at causing explosions. If we were to add the prefix goblin in front, the probability of an explosion occurring increased by tenfolds. Ignoring the fact that the Bar brothers would choose mutually assured destruction when they realized that they were in a dire situation, they had many messy toys on them. Just by bumping and falling a few times, those things might just explode if your luck was bad. Bastards, grab hold of those two fools. They're running. Hurry up and chase them. A cloud of smoke rose in the background, and the slippery oil spell caused the fire to intensify. However, judging from those curses behind us, this kind of unplanned small explosion could barely hinder those powerful knights who were fully clad in mithril. However, slippery oil, slippery oil, slippery oil. The ground behind us gleamed with the shine of oil. Full of shelves equipped in heavy armor, slowly train your balancing abilities on my oil. Prepare to die. Hearing that yell, I realized that my happiness was short-lived. Appearing from the corner of the street was the captain of the town security, Diana. In her hands was the sacred sword that I sold to her, the Silver Avenger. Immediately, we changed direction. However, led by their vice captain, Jan, another group of Dark Elf Knights started out from a corner. Damn it, it's a trap. As the three groups converged, We realized we were surrounded. Bastard. I thought that you were really a good person, but the dress that I just bought is completely ruined. And my tidbits. My cosmetics. And Momo's Mimi. 5. Isn't your Mimi originally this small? No. It is my pet cat Mimi. Also, my breasts are at least bigger than yours. I am a male, don't you feel embarrassed comparing yourself to me? I'm sorry, you look too effeminate. I forgot that you are male. The noisy dark elf knights surrounded us from all three directions. Ignoring the internal strife between the dark elf siblings, judging from how they were rubbing their knuckles against their palms, they were probably prepared to strike at any moment. Under such circumstances, the first thing I did was, I performed a cartwheel and dodged a strike from my back. Then, following up with a floating spell, I floated a foot off the ground to escape from another slash. Bastard, so you were the one who dragged us down. How many times has it been? As expected, the aggressors were the old cow, who had an apologetic look on his face but used full force in his attacks anyway, and a crazy vampire who was busy castigating me. As expected, my foremost priority should be to get rid of these two foolish comrades who were already too used to betraying others. They were much slyer, and thus more difficult to deal with than the Dark Elves. After coming to a realization that the operation carried out this time was my fault, they wouldn't spare a second thought to betray me. If I were to be captured this time, even if the Dark Elves didn't deal with me personally, my cellmates would surely take good care of me. I mustn't get caught by any means. Under the combined attacks of 2 of the top 10 fighters in Sulphur Mountain City, my movements were a mess as I tried to dodge their attacks. As for the Dark Elves, they were willing to sit by the side and watch the dogfight. Some of them even brought out chairs to enjoy the show. An opportunity. How could those bitches understand the solid friendship we forged under oppression? Just a single look and we understood what we had to do. The cowhead grabbed me and Lilith with both of his hands and threw us out of the blockade. You bastards! When the Dark Elf Knights finally came to, we were already out of the blockade. The poor cow, despite having the strongest fighting prowess of all, due to his meaningless principle of not hitting women, was pushed down to the ground by a group of female knights. Old cow, we will remember your sacrifice. Lich, what did you do? Yesterday, when they caught me, I burned their barracks. Well done. I have wanted to do that for a very long time. I laughed for a bit, as though I was pleased with my actions, but then I casually pointed a finger towards her. Art of Truth, incapacitate. Due to my sudden attack, the unwary vampire's movements were sealed. Although my Art of Truth could only stop her for a few seconds, that was more than enough. Her eyes were filled with incomprehension. We had already escaped from the town security, so she was unable to understand why I would choose to betray her. But the next instant, she understood. The mad Lich Roland was well known in the city for bringing harm to others for no apparent reason or benefit to him. Otherwise, despite being the incarnation of fear, why would he gain the glorious title of Screw Loose? As the army drew closer, the incapacitated Lilith Milan, despite her indignation and anger, could not do anything. As she was pushed to the ground by the Dark Elf Knights, the system notice finally rang out. Daily quest, Betrayal is complete. Quest objective, betray 3 comrades who trust you, the reward depends on the strength of those who were betrayed. Quest progress, Jinubar, Yungubar, Lilith Milan, the average strength of the 3 are above the gold rank and your current strength. As the quest is completed perfectly, you are rewarded with 10 evil points. As I thought, betraying all of you is worth the effort. Alright, since the daily quest was completed and I had received my reward, now was the time for me to really try to get away. After turning into a quiet corner, I put on a special silver magic robe with golden linings and a faceless silver metal mask. I stood there quietly, waiting for my pursuers to catch up. Crap. Sorry, Lord. After turning the corner, the furious town security troops immediately turned into obedient little girls. As Diana rushed over, she suddenly caught sight of me and her smug expression disappeared completely. She became as quiet as a hibernating cicada, not daring to talk at all, behaving as how one would act when looking at their superiors. Finally, as the captain, she bucked up the courage. Chief Justice Lord Woomians, why are you here? Yes, I, Roland Mist, had another identity. I was the city's top judicial officer, Chief Justice Woomians, the indefatigable one, 6. I was not their direct superior but their superior. Note, 1. Cause and effect. He changed fate, cause, so the effects of his actions will change the world. 2. Torrents have cow heads and human bodies. 3. Journey to the West. Reference 4. Phylactery refers to the object which one's soul is deposited. Has the same concept as a horcrux. 5. Mimi is also used as a slang for breasts. 6. Wormions means the one who doesn't sleep, and has sort of a literary meaning of how he overlooks the entire city for crimes at every single moment. Its English translation is the indefatigable one. Chapter 5, Chief Justice. G. Sulphur Mountain City was a good place. This was a commonly accepted fact in the underground world. In order to understand what kind of place Sulphur Mountain City was, one must first understand what kind of place the underground world was like. A land for exiles. This was probably the common understanding among those living on the surface. The underground world was a crevice under the continent of Ike. The total size of the underground world was immeasurable, its geography far too complex to be mapped out properly. It was even said that there was a route in the underground world that led straight to the chaos abyss. Initially, there weren't many residents here, but as years passed, it became a land of gathering for the exiled. The elves had exiled the dark elves, the dwarves had exiled the great dwarves, and the gnomes had exiled the wild gnomes. 40% of the Beastmen tribe were chased by other factions into the underground world. Even the powerful great dragons chased the brutal red dragons and cunning black dragons into exile here. This was also where the titans had exiled the volcanic giants. The dominant race of the surface, the humans, were no exception as well. Although it was all their brethren they exiled, it was the most complicated bunch of all, including witches, extremists, cultists, necromancers, revolutionists, demon worshippers, scientists and so on. It seemed as though the underground world was a disposal ground. As time passed, the races of the underground world became far too complicated to be calculated, but there was one common rule here. In the underground world, there was no order. Strength spoke the loudest. The winners earned it all while the losers were enslaved. Even in the chaotic chaos faction, this was one of the messiest places. The underground city lords waged and fought wars all year round. They annexed land, stole rations, attacked cities and enslaved the population. Of course, the countries on the surface were no better, but due to the restrictions by the different religions worshipping the gods of the Order faction and the different councils of each country, it was still mainly peaceful there. However, in the land abandoned by the gods, the underground world, the war had never stopped. Those who were able to survive in the chaotic underground world, when placed in comparison with those on the surface, were far from being weaklings. Well, if we were to use the analogy of a game, the underground was a dangerous zone for the high-leveled, opened later on in the game. Only players above LV40 were able to form parties to enter. In most of the cities of the underground, due to the presence of diverse races, there would normally be just one dominant race oppressing the others. But, Sulphur Mountain City was different. This city lay next to the Sulphur River but did not have a long history. It was slightly younger than 130 years, and in the eyes of those tribes blessed with longevity, that was no more than a blink of an eye. But they accomplished a deed that the surrounding underground city lords had been unable to achieve for a few millennia. There was no war here, no nobility or oppression. In fact, there was no ruling race here. The city lord Adam Hahn, a well-known hero, took up the lonesome job of becoming the city lord. Despite Adam, a human, being the city lord here, humans were the scarcer race within the city. Furthermore, there wasn't even a single ruling class nobility present here. And, the fellow being was jokingly said to be muscle-brained. The city lord was even more renowned for having totally no interest in power or land. Contrary to the armies in other underground cities, which numbered in the tens of thousands, Sulphur Mountain City only had a few hundred people in the reserve army and public security team. In fact, the strongest of them was the Town Order Security Army, better known as Town Security, which mainly comprised of dark elves. Yet even so, their scale didn't even cross the 800 mark. In the chaotic underground world, pacifists were synonymous with weaklings. With their backs to the mines in Sulphur Mountain coupled with their weak defense force, they naturally attracted aggression from the other underground city lords. But, after a couple of battles, no one dared to set their gazes on them anymore. The reason? Their fists were strong enough. No army. In actuality, there was no need of one. Inmezius, the ancient red dragon who was titled Disaster of Erin, lived in the sulphur mines behind Sulphur Mountain City. This evil dragon once laid waste to dozens of human kingdoms, but for reasons unknown, it became the guardian beast of this city. Adam Han was one of the most renowned heroes of this era. He had once killed Undead Emperor Lord Yang, won and saved the world. After coming to the underground world alone, he destroyed a city of dark elves with just brute force. That was 40,000 to 50,000 dark elves and 100,000 of other races. He himself was probably the most famous 1,000-man killer. The great Saint Margaret, nicknamed the Child of Heaven, was comrades with Adam on their journey to seal Lord Yang. She was rumored to be a remarkable existence capable of summoning an army of angels by herself. It was said that there was once an underground city lord who, while on his way to attack Sulphur Mountain City, was persuaded to leave by a prominent figure without even catching sight of the city walls. It was said that as long as the three heads of Sulphur Mountain City existed, it would remain an impregnable fortress. In my system, these three fellows were LV200-300's perfect super boss level characters. Not mentioning the current era, even after 3 or 4 updates in my game walkthrough database, they were still extremely powerful characters, far beyond the reach of those LV80-90's barely legend-ranked underground city lords in the surroundings. It was due to their strong protection that this city had turned into the only clean land in this chaotic underground world. However, having only military strength was insufficient. The Great Saint took up the role as the head of internal affairs and kept the city in good order, while the Chief Justice Wumians, yup, that's me, even went on to create the most equal and fair laws in the entire Reich. As for the city lord Adam, he spent most of his time doing what he usually did, being a useless lucky charm. Coincidentally, I, who was rather close to the three heads of Sulphur Mountain City, became one of its founders. Previously, when I was questioned by the town security, I didn't lie. I really am a good employee with a proper job, the Chief Justice of Sulphur Mountain City. Although my memories had been mostly scattered after 3 deaths, I still managed to retain most of the important knowledge. As a lawyer and judge in my previous life, I had accumulated knowledge of legislation far beyond that of this era. The legislation I had written for Sulphur Mountain City had become a role model for the entire underground world, and the surface dwellers even sent scholars to study from us. The conflicts due to the diverse races. I carved Martin Luther King Jr.'s "I Have a Dream" on the city markets and city gates such that everyone entering or leaving the city would see it. And this was only the first step. I established racial discrimination to be illegal, and offenders would be severely dealt with. I then came up with a series of policies to tackle racial tensions, and I severely dealt with a couple of fools who crossed my laws to give a stern warning to others. As someone interested in sociology, I understood that society would get used to the presence of a rule as long as it gained recognition and agreement on the surface. After sufficient time, it would be viewed as being morally correct. As an immortal undead, the only things I didn't lack were time and stamina. After spending long years trying to change other people's mindset, I had at least succeeded in planting the ideas of racial harmony in the minds of the citizens of Sulphur Mountain City. The comparatively harmonious relationship between different races was the basis of Sulphur Mountain City's prosperity, and the next step would be security. Killing a person and stealing his items was a heavy crime. In other underground cities, one could pay his way through his crimes, causing rich merchants and nobilities to not treat folks of other races with proper dignity and respect. Here, however, it was a non-negotiable death penalty. Under the threat of heavy punishment, the security of the city turned for the better. Of course, there must be sufficient strength to put these legislations into action, and a group of queer dark elves, who were driven out of their clan for believing in the holy light, became the cornerstone of the security team. After devoting a lot of resources, I managed to turn them into a team of public security officers trusted by the citizens. Sometimes I did regret getting such good equipment for the town's security. Giving them so much power made the difficulty of completing my daily quests twice as difficult, and the frequency of me being locked in a cell increased progressively. Cough, cough. let's not talk about how I managed to shoot myself in the foot. Let's continue talking about how the blood and tears of a transcender ushered in the new era for the underground city. The religious conflicts that resulted in the splitting headaches of the leaders of other parts of the underground world. This was indubitably a difficult problem for other cities to handle due to the physical manifestation of gods in the world of Ike. The underground city lords were often believers of certain gods. So how can they be trusted to be impartial? An oppression against certain races would cause endless conflicts in the city. In this city, amongst the three heads, Red Dragonine Misuse believed in gold coins. The city lord Adam Han was well known for not having a faith, while the Great Saint believed in knowledge and Adam. Yup, you didn't hear it wrong. The Great Saint has had a crush on the great hero for very long, and this was a well-known fact throughout the world. However, the blockheads seemed to be ignorant of it. Little Red and I couldn't stand looking at the situation any longer, so we trashed his wedding reception twice. Two, of course, I couldn't deny my ulterior motives. Other than the evil points I earned from causing utter chaos, looking at Adam's dumb face on the verge of tears was really gratifying. Alright, looks like I'm going off topic. Let's continue talking about the underground world. The faiths of the three heads weren't reliable, and if I, arguably, were to have a faith, it would probably be to give those who sinned what they deserve and to grant the innocent the protection of the law and such, in the spirit of the justice in my previous life. Thus, I did something never seen before in the history of Ike. I granted the citizens of Sulphur Mountain City the freedom of faith. Faith is an individual choice. While we will allow one to spread their faith within the city, no religious organizations are to force others to convert to their beliefs. Those who break this law will be exiled from Sulphur Mountain City. In Sulphur Mountain City, there were people who believed in demons, the holy light, and even those who believed in Gaia and such. There was an incredible number of altars and shrines in the city. However, if any of them tried to use religion as a flag to oppress others, they would face severe punishment. While the rest of the underground world coped with internal conflicts, wrestling over political power, the frequent war of faith between different churches, and the casual plundering of the weak by the strong, our Sulphur Mountain Cities was exceptional in the fact that it was politically stable with suitable laws put in place. We had great efficiency and governance, peaceful and orderly. We attracted countless talents and merchants, making our city a prosperous one that eventually became known as the paradise of the underground world. In reality, the city wasn't all that good. It was just that the other underground cities were too chaotic. The city looked much better in comparison to its surroundings. Chaos had already become a symbol of the underground cities and the underground world, which resulted in many resources and manpower to actively seek out our city, heightening its prosperity. On the surface, even the Holy Light Church was so taken aback by the peaceful city within the land of chaos that they sent holy knights and priests to receive teachings from the city. Many holy knights were stumped by how diverse races could get along, and the majority of them chose to be stationed in the city for extended periods of time. During their time in the city, they studied the scripture gifted by the Holy Light while they tried to spread the greatness of Holy Light and enlighten the evil underground world residents. As a Lich, the natural enemy of holy knights and priests, my detest for them was great. At times, I would be tempted to peel off my mask and tell them that their scripture gifted by the Holy Light was the creation of an evil Lich to see if the faith of some people would crumble from that fact. Let's come back to the present. This facade had become my best cover while under pursuit. No one would have expected the fair, impartial, and infallible Chief Justice Woomians to actually be Lich Roland, who often stirred up trouble and was known to have a loose screw in his head. When I took on the responsibility as the head of the Supreme Court, I insisted on putting on my mask. Due to the unreliable evil Lich system, I was cursed to be unable to retain my dignity, and as a judge who would take law into his own hands, dignity and authority were crucial. After all, any legislation without authority or fear was just another piece of scrap paper. At this moment, the dignity that I had accumulated throughout the years worked its wonders. Right now, despite only standing there silently, the members of the town security, under long years of being under my authority, were quivering down to their feet. I turned my head and looked towards the one leading the team, Diana's fan. Lord. There was no doubt that from the trembling of her voice, She was definitely having a guilty conscience. I was the superior of their superior of their superior of their superior, and this does not only mean that my official rank was higher than theirs. They were members of the town security, and the town security was a subsidiary of the subordinate court, and the subordinate court was a subsidiary of the Supreme Court, while I, Wumians, was the head of the Supreme Court. In the legislation that I drafted, as a subsidiary of the subordinate court, the town order security army did not have the rights to authorize an arrest. They could only listen to the orders of their superiors. They had to request for an approval from the subordinate court to carry out an arrest, who would then send a report to the Supreme Court. This was especially so if they wanted to carry out a large-scale event along the lines of swiftly and heavily, we shall severely punish those committing crimes to enforce law. As the head of the Supreme Court, I hadn't received a report for the large-scale arrest warrant. Insubordination? Of course it was an act of insubordination. I had just bombed the base of the town security yesterday, but they had started with the operation today. How was it possible for them to request for an approval and receive the approval within such a short period of time? Even just considering submitting the request, they would have to first gather the documents required from the mess of their base, and that was quite a big project. Diana's face turned white in an instant after hearing my muttering. No matter how righteous the rhetoric is, the enforcement of law is a violent process. The law enforcers are the tools for carrying out such violent acts for the court. If these tools were to grow their own mind and start acting as they please, then it might be time to get rid of these tools. This was one of my well-known quotes and was on the first page of every town security member's work manual. It served as a warning. I reckoned that they were intending to carry out a sudden raid and fill up on the administrative matters later on. On other days, the subordinate court and Supreme Court would just turn a blind eye, but they hadn't anticipated my sudden appearance. They were caught red-handed in the act. Merely looking at them silently caused the dark-skinned dark elves' faces to turn ash white. It surely put them in a very good position to compete with that of the undead. Insubordination? No matter the reason or the outcome, for a group of law enforcers to do as they pleased was a very dangerous act. Today, they could be committing insubordination to beat up others, but tomorrow they could very well be committing a coup d'état, trying to overthrow the current order. Following Sulphur Mountain City's laws, those who tried to overstep their authority, even in the lightest of sentences, were to be exiled from Sulphur Mountain City. The Dark Elves had landed themselves in a desperate situation. If the person they met with was one of the other members of the Supreme Court, they could still negotiate with them and settle it privately. However, the man in front of them was the man who had miraculously converted the intangible laws of justice into an actual power similar to holy light, the very symbol of law. They had never heard of an occasion where he compromised with those who tread on the boundaries of the law. Town Security Captain Diana's face was bitter, but it was time for her to stand out. After working so hard for a long time and going through many difficulties, the evil Dark Elves finally managed to receive recognition from the citizens. Will it all go to vain like this? After leaving the city, will we have to go out there and live the days of blood and brutal killings? How can I face my sisters who believed in me like that? The young lady's red lips were bleeding from being bitten on, and her purple eyes were filled with tears. They thought back to the days where they fought just to survive, and they thought of how they were finally able to find a blissful home and lead good lives after being exiled from their clan. The Dark Elves' beautiful faces were distorted with pain. Lord, it was all my individual decision. If you have to punish, please only punish me. The strong town security captain threw away her pride and knelt for forgiveness. Big Sis Diana. It is not Big Sister's fault, we did it all for the order of Sulphur Mountain City. Yeah, what rights do you have to punish us? Surrounding their captain, the other town security knights were drunk in their emotions. Some of them started glaring angrily at me, and the situation seemed to be on the verge of turning physical. Thus, incantation of law, silence. Following the echo of my voice, a mysterious magic started to take effect. In the midst of air, a silver gavel struck down, and a reverberation spread through the entire plot of land. As the silver ripples undulated outwards in all directions, not only did all sounds disappear, but even the intense indignant emotions vanished. In this mystical world, if the faith in the concept of order and holy light could be transformed to become an origin of power, then how could the faith in law and justice lack the support of supranational powers? It had to be said that while I was in court and the fourth soul imprint began to take shape, the one who was the most surprised was me. This meant that the code of law that I had single-handedly created was recognized by the source of the world and had become a part of the powers of order. Law was the power of words. The rules of the world were known as laws, and as the one who controlled the rules and the code of law, my words could become the rules of the world. And that was the incantation of law. It was a unique magical art that combined the concepts of law and magic. Although it was very different from the art of truth used by mages and the commandment branch of divine arts used by priests, as long as one fulfilled the strict requirements for its usage, its prowess was one to behold. At this moment, I was dealing with a case with this town security as the accused and the narrow alley as my court. As I called for silence, all living beings must quiet down and listen to my truth. The Dark Elves' innate resistance against magic was useless in the face of my incantation of law. No one was able to hear their words or their body. Their hearts felt as though they were soaked in icy water as they felt a chill run down their back. They all quieted down in an instant. Only now did they recall that the man in front of them was not just the Chief Justice, but even more so a great mage whose limits had yet to be tested. The incantation of law he had created by combining both law and magic together had become a unique rule-based magic. Its fame had spread far and wide. It attracted even the great religious heads and saints from the surface to study. The Supreme Court had become a sacred land where only powerful gold rankers could learn the secrets of the incantation of law. He created 3 new jobs: Knight of Justice, Judgmenter, and Law Incantationer. They were equivalent to the holy knights, cardinals and monks that the Holy Church was so proud of. How fearsome! My magic-resistant skin has been totally ignored. I'm unable to analyze the level of this magic. In fact, I can't even feel the pulsation of magic, but it's at least at the saint rank. I.T. magic used by a saint. In their eyes, defying orders meant starting a war against the entire law organization of Sulphur Mountain City. Even if they tried to escape, they might not be able to escape from the hands of the judges. What was in front of the Dark Elves seemed to be a dire situation where they might very well end up exiled. In the face of such dire circumstances, everyone's heads drooped as they waited for me to pass my verdict. My lord, please consider how I worked for Sulphur Mountain City for so many years. Please only punish me. Diana knelt with a teary face. A respected female knight captain just knelt down. How could the other knights still continue to remain standing? Thus, the sight of a group of kneeling knights unfolded in front of my eyes. Ayo! Looking at how deep their sisterhood was, I started to feel sentimental myself. In reality, the town security captain Diana was also a LV-81 legend rank knight, and her abilities were definitely above mine. As for why she was unable to stand up against me, other than her guilty conscience, it was the workings of my god-tier equipment. The enchantments of this silver robe were done by me during the most powerful phase of my life. Initially, I had used it mostly to scare other people, but after I became a judge, I mainly used it to pressurize the accused. After realizing the incantation of law, the elite-ranked magic robe turned into a piece of semi-god equipment for no apparent reason. Semi-god equipment, the dignity of judicature, bound. Defense, 10 points, even metal plates only have 5 points of defense. For a cloth magic robe to reach this level of defense is already very incredible. Unique ability 1, the self-judgment of the sinner, induces guilt within sinners, and as time passes sinners would fall deeper into a state of fear and helplessness. The greater the sin, the greater the effect of this ability. The innocents are exempted from this ability. Unique ability 2, the dispassionate judge, the user equipped with the mask would have his charm fixed at 100. Resistance against seduction, detection, illusory and similar magic plus 20. Unique ability 3 isn't activated as the user doesn't satisfy the basic requirements. Unique ability 4 isn't activated as the user doesn't satisfy the basic requirements. God equipment curse, weight of the gavel. The user equipped must have a job related to the legislative system and must carry out his job impartially. If he were to twist the laws for personal reasons or speak falsely, the law robe will transform into an unquenchable fire, destroying the user's soul and physical body. Please use the authority granted prudently. The choice made after the gavel strikes down doesn't merely decide the rise and fall of an individual, but represents the dignity of the legislative system and its impartiality. Chief Justice Woomians. In the continent of Ike, semi-god equipment and such were that troublesome. Its abilities were specific albeit strong but were often affixed with some kind of troublesome god equipment curse. The magical robe was exactly the case. Other ordinary robes could only boost the effects of spells cast. It, however, didn't boost one's intelligence, but in exchange, it came with several powerful special abilities. The first unique ability saved me quite a lot of hassle while on trial. Be it a serial killer or the head of a triad, as long as they retained a shred of conscience they would all become a bunch of chickens in front of me. As for the second unique ability, it allowed me to disregard all attempts at figuring out my true identity. As for the god equipment curse, being unable to defy the laws set and being unable to lie wasn't too big of a deal to me. Firstly, I was single, and thus there was no reason for me to flout the laws for personal reasons. Taking a step back, if I were to engage in a scam, it would be more than sufficient to play a word game to mislead others. Instead, using lies that could be exposed were actually less effective. I don't lie, but this doesn't mean that you are able to understand the true meaning of my words. Don't blame me if you misunderstand my words. The semi-god equipment curse might not work on me, but its power didn't take a cut. Right now, the law enforcers, who believed in the holy light, had overstepped their authority and were filled with guilt. Under the pressure of the semi-god equipment, they felt as though invisible chains were restraining their bodies and pushing them down, causing them to be unable to straighten their bodies. I estimate that by simply standing there, the pressure the other party encountered wouldn't be inferior to that of a dragon, and this would continue to increase as we proceeded on with the judging. However, seeing the current circumstances, if I continued to pressure them so, I might end up seeing some girls wet their pants. Alright, this should be sufficient. If I were to go too far, they might just snap and do something desperate. Furthermore, I had no intention of driving them from the city. Thus, I turn around to leave, leaving just a few words behind. I just happened to pass by and didn't see anything. Tomorrow, remember to get your captain to file the report. Hearing my words, I could hear tears of joy and thanks sounding from my back. Thank you, my lord. After I turned about the corner, the dark elves collapsed onto the ground together, some of them hugging each other crying, celebrating the dangerous circumstances they had just overcome. I smiled under my mask. Lord Woomians may seem frightening, but he is actually a kind person. That scared me. Momo almost suffocated to death. Sister Anna, let Momo rest on you a bit. You wrench. Don't touch as you please. You should go find Lilith Milan instead. I left a little toy to listen in on their conversation. Cough. I meant the naughty wind delivered their discussion to my ear. To listen seriously to the complaints of your subordinates is the responsibility of a superior. If I don't know who is talking bad about me, what if I mistreat the wrong person? That girl is called Stacy, right? She really knows how to talk. Of course I'm a good person. My mood lifted significantly and I decided to lighten their punishment. However, in the next instant, I knew my mood would worsen. That was because just by the street, my loyal maid, Elisa, had been waiting for a long time. Master, what happened to you? To think you would actually let them off? The law is dead, but we are alive. A legislation with no flexibility or humanity would only create grudges. Their actions and motives weren't wrong. It is just that the procedure they worked by is illegal. Exiling them would be going too far. See how the great me dealt with this perfectly, holding the executioner's blade high up in the sky yet putting it down lightly. This is how a true superior official should act. Learn a bit. The truth? Her lips curled in disdain. The maid with a vicious tongue, my number one loyal servant, once again chose to ignore my facade and glee. It isn't fun playing them to death at one go. Ha ha. I really earned quite a bit today. Not only was my daily quest a huge success, I also got a handle and a favor over the town security. Hey, those lasses, see how I will deal with you all tomorrow. You all actually dared to steal the feed from the mouth of my Abao? I would forever remember the dark elf named Diana, that evil bitch who had taken Abao's bone from me. Tomorrow, when you go to the Supreme Court to file the report, I will let you understand what a superior's harassment meant. I will let you understand what nonviolent aggression was like, what bloodshed in the office meant. Chasing you out of the city. As dark elf knights who believed in the holy light, You all are probably the only such ones in the entire underground world. Wouldn't I lose a hard-to-come-by toy and useful tool like that? Elisa sighed helplessly. As expected, I really shouldn't hold any expectations for your conscience. You really are evil to your bones. No, I am a good person. One day, I will definitely convert those evil points to justice points, then work hard at doing good deeds. Then, I will finally be able to enjoy a good reputation. From a certain viewpoint, my current situation could be said to be caused by that mess of a system. Having to do evil deeds to earn points, just how could I earn a good reputation doing evil deeds? I even had to wear a metal mask just to go to work. If only that was all. What I really couldn't tolerate was that darn mask and robe, for it to be a semi-god equipment set. Just by looking at me, those beautiful ladies are either stunned with fear or shaking their legs and peeing their pants, causing me to still not have a girlfriend despite being advanced in age. No, what is wrong isn't the mask or your dress up but your brain. An undead lich looking for a girlfriend? Hee hee, I can't even laugh at such a joke. Right, I heard that while you were still a human, you retain your virginity. Reality may be harsh, but please don't escape from it. TSK. I don't want to scare you, but there's a female who says that she wants to marry me. Ayo. Which necrophile would have such heavy taste? No, I get it, it must be some naive lolly, agreeing to marry someone after receiving a lollipop. Even though you aren't popular, but to go to the extent of lying to Lolis just to satisfy your own pride, that really is too pitiful. Aeya, master, why does your face look so awful? Don't tell me Elisa has guessed it correctly again? Elisa, you bastard. I want to be a good person. I also want to have a girlfriend. Thus, this time, the citizens of Sulphur Mountain City had the honor of seeing the tears of the head of their Supreme Court. Note: 1. Yongi means eternal night. 2. Little Redis is the nickname for Red Dragonine Mesius. Chapter 6, Work. Lord, we, the Dimrams, have been making a living rearing goats for generations after generations. That day, after expending much effort, we finally found a fertile grassland. But just as we were loosening the restraints on our darlings, the demons came. That's right, she stole our darlings and even tried to take away our possessions. Look, she even said that she was a law enforcer. 1. Where on earth do you find such a thief-like law enforcer? In front of me were a bunch of indignant dimrams. The short and diminutive beastmen were well known to be cunning and annoyingly talkative. Right now, tears were flowing down their cheeks and their faces screamed of indignation. It was as though they had met with great injustice. My lord, you must redress our grievances. Our entire fortune has been stolen by these demons. That's right. My poor little Sia. He was barely 2 months old, not even past the age of breastfeeding. Yet, he was taken away from his mother by those demons. How can this be allowed? When the wind blows from the south, the snow flows along. Our goat is still so young, but that heartless wolf came to our house and 2. I had seen many pitiable people in court, but the sight of the Dimrams gathering in a group, crying and lamenting together, wasn't something I got to see every day. As expected of the artistic Dimrams, they even started staging a musical about their grievances. Initially, I was still rather touched, but after watching it for half a day, I realized that their standards were so-so and their lines were repetitive. I lost my interest, yawned, and began to announce my verdict. The law enforcers are not guilty of malpractice. The Camusi Dimrim tribe can retrieve their goats under custody after paying their fines. This is my final verdict. The plaintiffs, 3, are not to file any appeals. My lord. This is unfair. On the defendant, 4, stand. Town Security Vice Captain Yuan heaved a sigh of relief. The plaintiffs were still busy bemoaning to the heavens about the verdict, but I refused to budge from my stance. Court police, take them out. Next. Corrupted officials are rampant, our justice system isn't fair. The foolish judge sides with the evil officials. Sigh, it always ended up like this. However, I felt slightly displeased at being called a foolish judge to the face. Intentional slander towards the judge. I sentence you to a fine of 10 gold coins. On a side note, the next time you release your cattle on the city's greenery, your cattle will be directly confiscated. While they did have the rights to rear their cattle, They had used Sulphur Mountain City's own greenery for ranching. It was no longer a problem about personal freedom but more of damaging public property. Just within the past 6 months, we had spent a few hundreds of thousands on the damaged grasslands and gardens, and this was just calculating the cost of the resources and manpower required for the operation. On the other hand, what the Dimrams saved were only a few hundred gold coins of grass feed. This time, the Dimrams' specialty of arguing right from wrong had worked against themselves. They actually tried to sue the town security for malpractice and enforcing laws. They surely must take me for a fool. Right, the one who said that I was a foolish judge just now. Go to the community center and volunteer for 2 months of free labor. Anyone who adds in any more crap will end up like him. Next time, go to the grass patches to buy grass feed or ranch outside of the city. If you were to continue ranching as you please, your entire tribe will be driven out of Sulphur Mountain City. Towards the scheming but lazy Dimrams, taking a nap while bringing the goats out for ranching was already an extremely tiring job for them. To make them work like the other races could be considered a harsh punishment, and for the greedy them to do free volunteer work for others was definitely a harsher punishment than the death penalty. The more you speak, the harsher you get punished. Instantly, the crying and singing stopped as they lined up orderly to leave the court. Thus, I nodded my head, satisfied. Next, I looked at the case files for the next hearing, but as I stared at the smiling defendant, I couldn't help but frown. No wonder the other judges left this case to me. It wasn't an easy case to tackle at all. Defendant, Bai Feng, 5, Herald, Dragon, 6, Hunter. Accused of kidnapping and inappropriate sexual actions. The evidence on this fellow was sufficient, and the man himself had confessed to the act. But this case still left me with a splitting headache. His methods may be dirty, but Hunter Bai Feng had just completed the dream of hunters by succeeding in capturing a druid as a pet. However, after he succeeded, he committed obscene acts with his pet in public on numerous occasions. What's more, sometimes the druid would transmogrify into a bear, sometimes a panther, sometimes a bird. It was just that there wasn't a single time they did it in human form. Furthermore, the druid was male, and Bai Feng was a male as well. Too dirty. Too disgusting. This severely affects the social values and culture of the entire Sulphur Mountain City. I strongly request subjecting this homosexual with a fetish for beasts to the death penalty under the reason of correcting the social values of Sulphur Mountain City. The Goblin Prosecutor, 7, on the plaintiff's seat spoke passionately. This case had been brought up from the ground level to the Supreme Judge, and now was the critical period to push it through. We must heed notice to the identity of the Jerkin defendant. In their eyes, being partners with beasts is a tradition and a natural thing to do. Citizens of Sulphur Mountain City have long prided themselves on being accepting towards the culture and traditions of other tribes. The basic principle of our codex states that we can only punish those who have tread on the laws, and in our codex, is the act of engaging in sexual activities with wild beasts prohibited? Since it isn't prohibited, then it isn't a crime. Thus, he cannot be passed off as guilty, and even more so, he cannot be punished. Reading out his interpretations towards the codex, the elf defense attorney Crows, 8, managed to gain the upper hand, despite his looks of despise and disdain towards his defendant. In the eyes of the elves who respected nature, Hunter Bai Feng's behavior should have warranted his death a few thousand times, but in the court, he could not compromise his professionalism as a lawyer for his personal gains. Just as Crows mentioned, due to the lack of a law dictating that his actions were a crime, the prosecutors were not even able to name out the exact name of his crime, much less determine the punishment he should be receiving. Which codex of law would outlaw such a disgusting crime like bestiality? If this bastard turns out to be innocent, then how can we continue to uphold the dignity and fairness of the law? Hearing that, the goblin prosecutor was filled with fury. Even though he wore a silver mask that covered his facial expressions, from his furious tone of voice and the veins popping from the mask, he seemed to be on the verge of exploding. But this was to be expected. For this case, he spent great efforts and went to court twice. Now that they were in front of the Supreme Judge, he was even more determined than ever to not let that pervert escape the claws of justice. I looked at the lizard face of the pervert, and he looked back at me. His face was calm, not a single hint of insecurity or restraint a defendant would normally have. Furthermore, My semi-god court robe was still in its activated mode. To exhibit such calmness under the pressure of a god-tier equipment, it could only show that he really believed that he was innocent and his heart was free of guilt. Thus, the equipment was rendered ineffective. Different culture? No, the other Durkins do not share the same hobby as him. He probably has knowledge on the law or has been informed of it, making him aware of the fact that we aren't able to judge him guilty. Ho ho, as expected. There are always interesting crimes in a foreign world. Ho ho. So can I go back now? My pet is still waiting to be fed. As I started laughing, that Jerkin started laughing along with me. That seemingly calm expression and laughter was a kind of challenge to me, and it caught my interest. Bam! The gavel struck down and I made my judgment. Judged innocent, the defendant is to be released. The Codex did not state that such an act was illegal, and since the laws that I wrote had a loophole in them, I admitted defeat this round. Hearing this, that Beifeng Herald let out an honest laughter, but his smile was full of glee. Of course, Sulphur Mountain City's judicial system, 9, is the fairest in the world. But, Prosecutor Lowe, don't be mad. You should have known earlier that since it is not deemed as a crime in the Codex, I cannot judge him guilty. Lowe knew this, and it was because he was aware of this that he was so furious. To allow a sinner to escape the reaches of justice was as good as an insult to the Supreme Court and the judicial system itself. But, my lord, have you finished preparing for the law drafting meeting at the Hall of Legislation next week? Oh, I understand. Due to my sudden seemingly unrelated question, Lowe was stunned briefly before realization struck him, and a hint of a smile creeped across his face. As the Supreme Court, we were not only an organization that dealt with judging criminals. Among the 4 subordinate halls, the Hall of Legislation was responsible for drafting up new laws. The Supreme Court, other than conducting the final inspection, had the authority to create new laws and define their legal understanding. Yup, since our friend Herald here has helped us to find a loophole in our legislation, 10, then let's fill it up. Crows, when the new law has passed through, send a few plainclothes to talk frequently with our friend to send him here soon. After all, we have to give our thanks to him. These words didn't seem to have been missed by Beifeng Herald. In this instant, his face steeled, as though imagining the moment he got caught and sent in here again. As for deciding never to do such a disgusting act in the future, from the very start, for him who viewed trading along animals as the greatest joy in life, it was never an option. Hearing this, even Defendant Attorney Crow's face was filled with joy and relief. Yes, my lord, I will go handle it immediately. Treading along animals is such an unnatural and disgusting action, he should be punished. Doing it public, his punishment must be doubled. Right. Remember to add in a section against the abuse of animals. Such actions should warrant the removal of the owner's rights to own pets. This should be sufficient to serve as an insurance to block all the means of that guy to commit such actions. As an honorary member of Sulphur Mountain City's Pet Lover Club, how can I allow such a person to continue oppressing those cute little animals? Let's directly remove his rights as a pet owner. Finally, Beifeng Herald started crying. If he were to want to continue staying in Sulphur Mountain City, then his hobby of treading with animals would have to be halted from now on. Thus, under my scheming, the dignity of the law was preserved. What if that fellow decided to turn over a new leaf? Let's first not talk about how I personally thought how difficult it would be to change his fetishes, but if he really succeeded in changing, it would be a matter for celebration. Next. Even though these cases were troublesome and boring, weren't all jobs the same? Boring and tasteless, but sometimes, it felt significant and meaningful. Note: 1. Law enforcers refers to the people who go out and catch criminals, either police, town security. 2. Lyrics from 3. The plaintiff is the one who brings a case against another in a court of law. 4. The defendant is the one being sued, the one which charges are being pressed against. The Dimrams and Beifeng. 5. Beifeng literally means sorrowful wind. Draken is his race and hunter is his job. 6. Decapitalizing Draken, here. Note to all our previous readers. 7. Prosecutor is the lawyer who institutes the legal proceeding against someone, helping the one suing. The goblin prosecuting lawyer. 8. Defense attorney is the lawyer on the side of the defendant, I.T. Crows. 9. Judiciary is the branch in charge of the interpretation and application of the law. I.T. The courts. 10. Legislation refers to the act of drafting up laws. Chapter 7. Strolling with my dog. Voke. Half-elf half-beast man, bronze-ranked assassin. The lives lost under his hands are countless, and his favorite hobby is hunting down children. He was captured by an operation carried out by the Dark Elves of Sulphur Mountain City, and was sentenced to imprisonment for 376 years, never to be let out his entire life. TSK. While reading the information, I gazed in fascination at the half-elf assassin in the cage. Half-beastmen were a rarely seen breed. For the other half to be their mortal enemy, the elves, it made his breed even rarer. Lich. Wait, don't kill me. Don't use me for your experiments. 2. You must have a lot of enemies, I can help you get rid of them. After realizing that he was sent to the Lich, Volk was initially stunned because even the weakest of the Liches was at least a legend. Then, he soon felt at ease as Liches belonged to the Chaos faction, similar to him. At the very least, they were easier to deal with than those full of just dumb-headed holy knights. Those hypocrites of the Order faction never understood the wonders of making deals and compromising. But, at this moment, I stared at him, smirking. I didn't bring him over from Sulphur Mountain City's prison to get an underling. I placed a withered bony finger on the forehead of the half-elf. Even though he was an unforgivable serial killer who had committed great atrocities, the warmth of the living still brought one comfort. It was only that the other party's face didn't look very good. Perhaps he had heard of the legends of Liches playing with people's souls and corpses. Under the icy touch of the white bones, his face whitened drastically. Really interesting. I thought that you were just a serial killer. To actually be a hidden blood flesh ritual doer, a worshipper of the filthy demons. You used the life of young children and made deals with the devils from hell for strength and an extended lifespan. As expected, when I said those words, the dirty memories hidden in his subconscious started to float out, and following it was the memory he feared the most. Tell me, interesting fellow. Tell me what you are afraid of the most. The human brain was extremely interesting. The more you tried not to think about something, the more your subconscious would think about the matter. The 4-circle memory reading spell wasn't a very complicated spell, but it wasn't a very useful ability, either. True secrets were always hidden in the depths of the mind, and the memory reading spell could only see what was on the surface. I, however, had my special way of doing things. By asking what secrets are you hiding, the person in question would tend to subconsciously think about what he had to hide, and in that instant, all his secrets would float to the surface, allowing my memory reading spell to access them. The thing you fear the most is your true identity getting exposed? I see. Then, what is your true identity? Chrome City's spy? Wow, that is really interesting. After a series of questions, his hidden motives became clear. My luck wasn't bad today. Initially, I had only wanted to change 2 of my prisoners to increase my evil points, but after a bit of questioning, I actually found out that he was a spy sent by other cities. Underground City Kromtoxo was probably the closest city to Sulphur Mountain City. But, compared to the prosperous Sulphur Mountain, its population is significantly smaller. The city was mainly dominated by the beastmen and great dwarves. The city lord was a dumb beastman who believed in the god of tyrants Ban. The city's mining industry was quite advanced, but their other industries weren't looking that good. This spy was recruited while he was in Chrome City. His mission was the most basic of all, collecting information. But, this was sufficient to prove that Chrome City was up to something. Eliza? The elusive headmaid appeared behind my back the next second. Interrogate him seriously. Find out all of his secrets and send Margaret a copy of the report. Tell her that if she doesn't intend to bother with it, I will dump this task on Adam. In my mind, catching a spy equals a dark hidden secret equals an ambition of a certain influential figure equals a series of troubles, which was equivalent to unpaid volunteer work. Since there were no benefits to be derived from working on it, I didn't want to interfere in such a bothersome matter. Since I managed to stumble upon it, let me just dump it on someone who might be interested. The head of internal affairs, the great Saint Margaret, would follow the clues and unravel the fabric of truth. As for the criminal, before he was even sent to me, he was already deemed to be guilty of unpardonable crimes. Now that he was here, he didn't have to dream about leaving. Bam. Following two thunderous rumblings, my entire dwelling trembled slightly. Dust was shaken off the ceiling, floating in the stale air of the underground prison. The prisoners coughed violently in response, and even my bones were cloaked in a thick layer of ash. Elisa was well prepared beforehand, and used a handkerchief to cover her mouth. Looks like Abao can't wait any longer. This earthquake was created by my beloved Abao. As it is way past the time for his usual walk and his master had yet to appear, he decided to jump about as a way to ask me to hurry up. Thus, I irresponsibly dumped all of the work on Elisa. It was the end of work time and the commencement of Abao's strolling time. Or rather, should I say that now is the time when I get pulled about by my gigantic two-headed hellhound. Just like other dumb dogs, right after leaving home, Abao seemed to have forgotten the presence of his owner. He started dashing around everywhere joyfully. As the one holding the leash, my entire skeletal rack doesn't weigh more than 15 kilograms and my strength is a measly 5. Naturally, I ended up flying in the sky, pulled around by a 10-ton humongous beast. Of course, after suffering several times under such circumstances and at a time like this, I would cast a floating spell on myself, tie the leash to the strongest bone on my skeleton, and act as a qualified kite. Furthermore, this kind of strolling method had reaped me some unexpected benefits. The skull flag has risen, that big dog is coming. Everyone, keep your stores. Where's the town security? Call the town security. Everyone, buck up. Let's build a defense line to protect our meat stores to our last breath. Today, don't dream about snatching away my fresh rib bones. Alright. The me who was being dragged around in the air became the alarm for Abao's presence. To prevent themselves from getting injured by the raging dumb dog, all the booth owners within 2 streets started packing up their stores to get out of Abao's way. Go to the city's east Undead area. That area shouldn't be under the jurisdiction of the town security. Hearing their words, I immediately issued an order to Abao and used all my strength to tug on the rope to get him to turn around. On previous occasions when I brought Abao out for a stroll, the most we caused was only chaos in the flow of traffic. We never hurt any people in the past. Skeleton soldiers aren't considered to be people, normally. The town security would have more important cases to deal with, and after they were done with their current tasks, I would have been heading back home already. Yet now, as the final survivor of the Gentleman Alliance, without the other members of our alliance creating trouble for them, I definitely would not underestimate the speed of their deployment and their determination to get rid of us. Woof! Under my directions, Abao kicked away the Taran blocking the road and sat on the roadblock with his gigantic bottom, destroying it in the process. Then, he sprinted all the way to the city east, leaving dust in his wake. Hold it! Momo commands you to stay still. It was all because of you that Momo wet herself in front of Lord Wumian's yesterday. Fine, it looks like I still underestimated the other party's determination to take me down. To think the town security would actually prepare an ambush, but, jump, Abao. The gigantic hellhound leapt into the air and flew past the obstacles in front of us. The town security behind us stopped in their tracks. Frustrated. 6-meter-tall skeleton giant held the gold-plated city gates as a shield in front of them, blocking their path. The empty sockets where his eyeball should have been didn't show a hint of emotion, yet no one dared to bypass him. We were already in the city east, the Undead district, and this plot of land wasn't under the jurisdiction of the town security. If they wanted to carry out an arrest here, they would have to write a report and go about the proper procedures. But, by the time they were done with it, the Lich would have been long gone from their sights. I finally reached my destination for today. I sent Abao away to look for food. Cough, to play. Afterwards, I greeted every single undead in front of me. Hi, long time no see, do you all miss me? Musclehead, your rotten flesh has become much smellier now. Small bones, your skull is really shiny, which brand of oil are you using? Uncle ACA, your bones are getting rusty. Why don't you try the new lubricant I just created? It is made of natural ingredients, it's environmentally friendly and has no side effects. But the undead, who were just pouncing around in front me, stood in daze after catching sight of me, and then run. That lunatic is here again. He scared the hell out of me. It was such an upsetting sight to see everyone scatter in all directions. The skeleton giant, carrying its own axe, jumped across the roof, while the Dullahunts charged away with their heads in their arms. Even the pitiful skeleton warriors tried to slip away. The sight in front of me was really depressing. Hey, is that how you welcome your clansmen? I only used you all to experiment necromancy, do daily chores for me, and test out the might of my sacred sword. The more I said, the less confidence my words had. A familiar voice sounded out from my back. Your Majesty, you have already spoken of the reasons yourself, so I shall not dwell on that any further. This time, is the reason for your visit that it is time for us to fight? No, I'm a pacifist. Fighting and such stuff are things I hate the most. However, the time I promised is indeed about to come. So, is our army prepared and ready to go? Of course, Your Majesty. Your army, no matter is it 376 years ago, 250 years ago, or 130 years ago, when have we let you down? The remaining 24,602 of the fallen red hunting hounds have been sharpening their edges and grinding their teeth, awaiting the day for their deployment. We already can't wait for the moment we return to the battlefield. When the fallen soldiers' voices were filled with fighting spirit. My general, as expected, was still as reliable as he was in the past. Today, are you here to view the soldiers' training or to overlook the experimentation of the new plague? Our alchemists have invented a new weapon while possessing great destructive power. No, I've already said that I'm a pacifist. Fighting and killing are meaningless to me. Today I'm here to view the preparation of that matter. You are saying that dumb? No, you're talking about that important matter? The preparations are complete and it's ready to be activated anytime. I nodded, satisfied. Turning my head around, I noticed that there wasn't a single person in sight. Woof, woof, below. Woof, woof, below. Your Majesty. You're doing it on purpose, aren't you? Is teasing me fun? I am one of your strongest generals, you know? Lowering my head, as expected, was my cute little boss. He was currently chasing his own tail and turning in circles by instinct. He was Abao's elder brother, one of my most trusted generals in the past. Now, he was a cute skeleton puppy. I am not little boss. I am Bastian, the mnemonic spatial hellhound Bastian. Yes, boss. Bastian. I am your general, you know. The vice commander of your army who knows no defeat. Alright, little boss. You don't have to emphasize it that much. I have always thought that you were great, yup, and most important of all, you are very cute. Of course, pets are humans' best friend while little rascals are their worst enemies. Hearing my increasingly unreliable declaration and how the tone of my voice felt like I was coaxing a naughty little kid, little boss's tail and eyebrows slumped down as he crouched on the floor, covering his face. He knew that when his master got into his crazy state, nothing he said would matter anymore. A skeleton dog with a face of despair, I had finally managed to witness it today. Fine, I won't tease you anymore. Little boss, are the preparations all ready? Anything that goes along with you. Although I've always thought that it was a terrible idea, and you have always been known for being unreliable, I will just take this as a play to humor you. Cough. A soft cough interrupted its complaints. Then, Lich Roland, hereby declare the opening of the new facility of Sulphur Mountain City Undead Tourism. The Undead Royale theme park is now up and functioning. Yes, fighting and killing was meaningless. Nowadays, what was important was the economy, a livelihood for our citizens. Our Undead district must also venture into new industries, which, in this case, was an Undead theme park. Dullahan Polo Competition, the piecing together a skeleton game, the Ghost Festival Dance Frenzy Competition and the Skeleton Dragon Sightseeing Tour around the entire Sulphur Mountain City. I had already prepared a series of popular activities for the theme park. As for the thing spinning around behind me, it was the theme park's greatest selling point, a gigantic Ferris wheel created by piling up countless skeletons. Its height was a hulking 300 meters, and when it spun around, the eerie wind that followed it was similar to a dancing black dragon. Its overall size was reminiscent of the gigantic titans such that it could be seen even outside the city. Previously, it took me much effort to convince the living that it wasn't some kind of scary war weapon or some sinister plot. But, this was all worth it. This Ferris wheel was a living advertisement for the theme park. Soon, countless customers would be visiting the theme park, and riches would come flowing in. At this moment, my skeleton retainers were dressed up as clowns and were playing music at the entrance as I patiently awaited the arrival of customers. Unexpectedly, after half an hour, not a single tourist came forward. I turned to Abbas, who was lying on my head. All the adverts were given out, right? Given out long ago. We already paid the goblins the advertisement fee, right? Paid. The safety assurance by the Supreme Court is written in the advert, right? Of course, to think that you would be able to receive permission and a guarantee by the Supreme Court. Without this, I doubt anyone would dare to come. Is my advertisement slogan not good enough? No, it was extremely interesting and eye-catching. View your own future and greet your future neighbors. Dance with the ghosts from the Mirage and enjoy a unique experience. Free entry for the first 3 days, and the first 100 customers will be entitled to a mysterious gift. Safety guaranteed. Great fun and joy guaranteed. Then why is no one coming? I stared at this dumb dog, but it simply smiled. Ho ho. Master, have you forgotten that this is the Undead District? The forbidden zone for the living? What do you think, in the eyes of the living, we undead stand for? Hearing that, I was stunned for a moment. What are the undead you speak of? Note, 1. Fallen, greater than. He uses a phrase that means the remaining soldiers on the losing side of the war. Chapter 8, The Undead Playground. What are the undead? I'm afraid, in the eyes of most of the living, the first thought would be endless death. In truth, there's nothing wrong with that kind of saying. In the battlefield between the Order gods and malevolent Chaos gods, the demon lords created a spell that rises the dead. From that day onward, the undead calamity became the nightmare of the living. But in truth, this cannot be blamed solely on the undead themselves. In this great continent, there are 2 reasons for the rise of the dead. The first is when someone dies with great injustice, regret, or dreams, and they are unwilling to disappear just like that. Then, there is an extremely small chance for them to come to life again. This kind of natural-born undead have an extremely low probability of occurring, but they are often very powerful. After all, to defy the calling of death requires extraordinary willpower and resentment. It is said that the god of death Ur is the oldest natural-born undead. Undead who are born from such great resentment would tend to be twisted. However, relying solely on their will to defy death to linger in the mortal world, they are often able to retain their self-awareness. Of course, among them, the strongest and noblest are the incarnation of the will of heroes. After dying, they will be accepted by the Order gods and granted a new immortal spiritual body along with a beautiful name, heroic spirits. Other than the natural-born undead, the other type of undead would be the frequently seen undead calamity, the ones who were enslaved by the evil necromancers to create even more deaths. The magic for the summoning of the dead originated from the demons. To date, there are many different kinds of variations and developments of the spell. At the very start, there were only corpses with low mobility. Afterwards, there are the swift skeleton warriors, abominations made of flesh and blood stitched together, skeleton mages who are capable of wielding dark magic, black knights who are skilled in martial arts, and finally, the strongest necromancer, Lich. Following the development of necromancy, the number of undead tribes in present times are innumerable, and those who are individually stronger than Liches don't just number a few. But, Liches, natural-born masters of necromancy, are still the core of the entire tribe for no other reasons. Only the cunning Liches hold the key to the evolution of the undead, and what they specialize in is the research and creation of new undead and necromancy magic. 99.9% of the existing undead are that kind of man-made undead, and only upon reaching silver rank can they start to develop self-awareness. Even the strongest undead heroes, upon waking up through necromancy, are only monsters who recognizes no kin. Their thirst for blood and souls would make them attack the ones they love, and once they savor the taste of killing and delicious souls, it is hard for them to turn back anymore. The bloodthirsty undead calamity, such a saying isn't wrong at all. The demons of the Chaos faction have a temperament to destroy themselves. They managed to coax the ancient mountainous clans to fall to depravity. But then, they created their own mortal enemy, the devils. They invented necromancy, but then, they created a new race who were hostile towards them. Both demons and devils are of the Chaos faction. The mountainous clan, originally the Order faction, fell to depravity and became the devils, of the Chaos faction, and despite being of the same faction, They are mortal enemies. The undead who regained their freedom had no hesitation in revolting against their own creators and even built their own nation. The current necropolis Broly and the country of undead Ziluo have become the vanguards against demons. In the country consisting of the dead, Ziluo Empire, the authority is centered around the Council of the Night, which is made up of liches, while the living only serve as lowly slaves. Furthermore, there was an undead calamity 100 years ago, the Yongai catastrophe, which almost resulted the end of the world, causing the undead to be viewed and repulsed by the Order faction. Heroic spirits, natural-born undead, the intangible race, the high-rank undead with self-awareness and the instinctively bloodthirsty low-rank undead. Normal citizens don't have the knowledge and ability to differentiate between them. Thus, in their eyes, the undead district in the east is just a gathering of scary demons. That is to say, no matter what we say or do, it is all useless. Of course, the living have their own world of the living and the dead have their own world of the dead. Your Majesty, you might be able to ignore this kind of boundary, but to get normal citizens cross it, it would be a difficult task. Ah, boss, who is lying on my head, says so. Although he is only a dog, at this moment, he seems like a philosopher who has seen past life and death. Not that far away, Abao is currently hugging a pile of bones and he licks them, satisfied. Looking even further away is a sight of demons prancing around. But, in my eyes, it is a scene of a daily life that can't be more normal. The undead don't need sustenance, but this doesn't mean that the high-rank undead with self-awareness don't have any desires. Right here, in the biggest market of the East District, rows and rows of shops are currently in business. How much does this preservative cost? Add another insecticide into, the ones without sulfur. My skin is sensitive to it. This is a big sister skeleton mage. She's currently troubled by the increasing bug population in her empty skull. Black bandage, cursed bandage, I guarantee you that your magic would be as stable as your intestines. Is there any mummy or zombie uncles that are interested? It is the newest model from the Ring of Mystical Magic. You can even choose between the mushroom picture and the bear picture. TL, the Ring of Mystical Magic, greater than name of some company. All kinds of fresh blood for sale. Humans, elves, and dwarves, we have kinds of races stocked up here. Virgin female, virgin male, homosexual, we have different kinds of gender as well. If you purchase 2000cc at once, you can even enjoy a long-term home delivery service. The little girl who is wearing a red cap running around looks extremely cute, but the goods she is selling was equally scary. Skulls for sale, golden jade, bronze, stone, dragon bones, whatever you need, we have it. Does anyone want to change their brain? Uncle Lich, do you want to change your brain? We even have a black ISO quality guarantee. We assure you that your magic would flow smoothly and that the material is tough and durable. No fake goods in the mix. There is a trial period for 3 days and you can refund it without any reasons. After waving my hand to chase away the annoying red hat blood tribe girl, I focus my attention on the distant and see the skeleton giant Glenn, who is in charge of guarding the gates, waving to me. Phew, those town security personnel are gone, I can finally go back now. The Undead district is unique in the entire Sulphur Mountain City. It is a comparatively independent district, where the town security has no authority to enforce the law. I guess I had underestimated their will to capture me, to think they would actually block the gates. Looks like they were on a long-term ambush plan, waiting for me to walk into it so that they catch me to calm their anger. Caught off guard, their ambush almost succeeded, but fortunately, Glenn was there to block their advances. To assault an undead at the boundary of the Undead district, this kind of actions could easily lead to a conflict. But as a good person, I proactively came up with a suggestion to solve the dispute. I heard that the Supreme Judge isn't very satisfied with the town security army. No, of course this isn't a threat. I won't send a complaint to the Hall of Enforcement, nor will I stand in front of the Supreme Court with banners and shout out my grievances. No, I am a good person. This definitely isn't a threat. I just want you all to do an experiment for me. If you all do so, I would even be willing to leave with you all. Hee, it isn't the first time I am bumping heads with you. Rest assured, this experiment isn't some kind of evil magic. You should know, the main project of the year, the tourism-based Undead theme park is opening for service today and I am the contractor. But look, There isn't a person in sight here to join in the fun. So, I am only inviting you all to become the first batch of customers, and if you all had fun, you could help me advertise a bit as well. I rub my hands together, fawning on them. Of course, it is free, entirely free. As the first batch of customers, there is even a complimentary mystery gift. Breaking my promise. I am a believer of law and the God of fairness. You are insulting my faith. There isn't such a God? Well, there will be one in the future. Have faith in me. I will do what I promised you all. As long as you all help me finish the tests on all of the entertainment programs, I will immediately leave with you all. Thus, they agreed to my request. Then, they regretted. Ah, smelly bones. Let Momo down. Momo's entire body is aching. Momo is dying. In front of me is a certain female knight who is dangling by a rope. Then, silence, because the rope snapped. Ah boss, next time write a sign on the bungee jumping station that one must strip their armor before bungee jumping. Looking at the big hole in front of me, I expressed my condolences. Ah, I knew that you pile of bones wouldn't be up to any good. Let me down. Whooshing past me while shouting is Vice Captain Yuan, which I met just not too long before. At this moment, her tan face hardens, as though she would puke any time now. Apparently, she isn't suited to the high-speed turns of the roller coaster. Let me down, you devils. Accept the judgment of the holy light. Don't summon the holy light on the roller coaster. Forget it, looks like I was slow. Ah boss. Remember to write a sign saying "Don't summon the holy light" on any one of the playground's facility. My warning was late. No matter what, the materials for building are still the products of necromancy, and if it were to meet its fated enemy, holy light. The sight of the car dissipating when the roller coaster is on a slope 100 meters high and dashing down with high speed, I finally had the honor to see it today. Wow, she flew really far. I swear that I didn't do it on purpose. Oh, you bastard. The beautiful elf ladies sitting in a circle puking without any care of their image. This sight. Ah boss, lower the hell turning cup's speed by 300%. Looks like I forgot that the living would get giddy when turning too fast. Yup, it is best to lower the turning speed. My brain. I can't see anything. You are going down today. The universe flying saucer should just stick with a 180-degree turn. We should forget about doing a 360-degree. Looks like, I forgot that when a living's head is hanging upside down for too long a time, they would experience temporary loss of vision and even death if hanged even longer. Too high, I'm scared, even the heavens and earths are shaking. Let me down, I'm begging you. The Ferris wheel only need to slowly move up and down, the carriage don't have to spin. Retreat, you evil beings. Holy light, I face so much evil spirits in front of me. Is this the end? I guess we shouldn't use real spirits in the haunted house? But that wouldn't be scary enough. But if we use real spirits, then what if those warriors really go all out against them? Hey, I should just close it for now. Stop, I'm begging you. My head is spinning. No. Ah. Pa. The resounding resonance of someone crashing into the wall makes one's head hurt just by listening. The spirit horses can pass through walls, but the living. Luckily I did a test with them. It is wonderful that no life is lost. Even the holy knights known for their great endurance are suffering so much. If it were the normal population. Looking at the tragedy in front of me, hearing their sharp shrieks and yell of agony, I can't help but feel fear. I tried to bring the idea of an amusement park from another world, but it seems like it doesn't go well with this world. If it weren't for these kind people helping me to experiment them, it would probably cause a disaster. To thank them, I decided to fulfill my own promise and follow them back to the town security base after the test. But today you have all worked hard. There are still another 120 segments to go. After finishing the testing, let's all go report to the town security army together. I definitely won't run away. You better remember this. You might have won today, but one of these days, I will take you into custody. But they all ran away. Don't forget your complimentary mystery gift. It is a free year ticket for the Undead theme park. Remember to come by the next time. Chapter 9, The Demon King. On the muddy sand field, a lonesome figure is running about. Despite it being a running track made of cinders, the figure runs barefooted on it, enduring the pain of objects digging into the flesh while carrying a heavy armor weighing beyond 100 kilograms on the back. This is no longer a type of training but a kind of punishment. Water has been sprinkled on the cinder road. The ashes may no longer rise up from the running about, but instead, it turns into a mud filled with ill will. The smooth foot from before is now full of wounds. Every few hundred meters of running, the slim figure would fall down once. Even when the body is full of wounds and mud, the young lady will struggle up and head forward once again, then fall down once again. Fresh blood was flowing from both her feet, forming a bright red line on the cinder path. To the young lady, the physical pain she was suffering was nothing. What that truly hurts was the piercing glare from all the passerby couldn't bear such a sight, but no one walked forward to stop her. This is because it is Sulphur City's Supreme Court. In the eyes of the population, it is the most sacred and impartial location. If someone is being punished here, they must have committed a crime deserving of it. On the running track, two judges dressed in a court robe and silver mask were discussing softly. "Isn't that Diana, the captain of town security? Why is she running laps here with her legs bare and even carrying that heavy armor? It is like she is being punished. Didn't Lord Woomians pass an order for the running track to be watered? Looks like it was prepared for her. What did she do? Didn't the town security army overstep their authority a few days ago? They started a roundup exercise without proper authorization and Lord Woomians seems to have caught on to it. Acting without authorization? Isn't that an extremely heavy crime? Even at the least, it would warrant exile." "Oh, I get it. Yeah, to sentence them all to exile seems too heavy, but going without punishment is impossible." Thus, when they came to submit the report these few days, Lord Woomians refused to see her. Today, he was willing to meet her though, but he only casually said that he wanted to see the town security army doing freestyle running with heavy load, and this lady consciously went to carry it out. Going by standard procedure, if we leave it to the court to judge, they conducted violent acts without authorization, that warrants an exile at the minimum, but this is obviously over the top. But if they go without punishment, then there would be someone who would follow in their footsteps and it would be hard to find a reason to punish them then. Yeah, the best way of handling it is probably like that. First, give them the cold shoulders for a few days to let them know how grave the matter is. Then, make them consciously get punished to warn the others. The law is dead, but we humans are alive. This way, not only did he manage to protect the dignity of the judiciary, he also manages to deal out a suitable punishment to those who did wrong. The balance struck between the two is worth studying. Lord Woomians is really impressive. TL, the law is dead, but we humans are alive. Greater than means the law is inflexible, but as humans, we should be flexible. I think we better get back to work. I feel like Lord Woomians is currently at the top of the tower looking towards here. If we leave an impression that we aren't serious in our work, then we might get in trouble." The two of them leave hurriedly. It is already the time for work to start, and as judges, they have their own cases to work on. Dark elves have very sensitive ears, and the discussion between the two judges didn't escape Diana's ears. Thus, grinding her teeth, she stands up once again and shakily carried the 100-kilogram armor to continue on with her punishment. Not too far away at the top of a tower where Woomians' office is, the heartless Supreme Judge is carrying some binoculars to look at the running track. It is different from what the judges guessed. He wasn't overlooking the punishment but looking at scenery with the mindset of appreciating the view. As expected, the wet shirt showcases the entire figure of the beautiful lady. The mud, in contrast, made the exercising copper body to look more well proportioned. Next time, I will ignore the opposition of those fellows. I will make mud wrestling of beautiful ladies a program of the sports day. Putting down the binoculars, I seriously thought about the possibility of this being approved in the council. What? Punishment? Dignity of the judiciary? Are these toys important? Those stubborn old fools in the council may not approve of it, but I will. Adam, appreciating the sight along with me, is a middle-aged man who is smiling obscenely. He is blessed with good looks, but he radiates a kind of tiredness from his soul. Red light armor, fiery vermilion greatsword, crimson hair reminiscent of the burning flames. His entire figure is like an inferno burning wildly. Despite being in the peaceful city, he was equipped in his battle armor as usual, and the broken silver sword on his waist may be the only other color on his body. The Phoenix of the East, the Deathless Man, He has a bunch of nicknames along those lines, but the one most people are familiar with is his identity as the Red Lotus Sword Saint hero. 130 years ago, he brought his team of adventurers to assault Lord Yang-I's undead army and managed to decapitate the undead Emperor Lord Yang-I, causing the entire undead army to fall apart. It is as though the classic fairy tale where the hero kills the demon king and saves the world. After that, he refused the gifts and recruitment from other countries and inconceivably, came to the abandoned underground world and built this unique city. As the unique name of Sulphur Mountain City once again spreads to the surface, the reputation of this hero soars once again. The living epic, the perfect hero. This is how the humans on the surface call their hero now. But at this current moment, facing the wet top and seemingly visible sexy curves, on that honest square face is a face of lewdness that all men know. Why don't we just conduct a mud marathon and call the town security dark elves and a bunch of priestesses in the church to join? The only attire allowed is underwear. Haha, we would make a fortune just by selling the entrance tickets. Roland, the Red Lotus Sword Saint Adam. Han is my direct superior, Sulphur Mountain's city lord. His greatest pleasure nowadays is creating trouble for his subordinates and the public council. My suggestion will definitely cause those old geezers to jump in rage, so there is no reason why he wouldn't like it. Don't just look at how improper he seems. In my system, this fellow is actually a LV 262 semi-god rank existence. If placed on the surface, he would at the very least rival the king of a country. Hey, you old virgin! You have gotten stronger. Roland, when I saw him last week, he was only LV 260. At such a level, even progressing a single step is difficult. But he actually gained 2 levels in a week. This is really unbelievable. Yeah, old virgin, your eyes are still as sharp as ever. For a thing like the Fire Phoenix, the older he is, the stronger he gets. The me in my current state, my heart of the Phoenix is currently burning at its limits. I should be able to beat you at your peak period now. Adam, hee, even if you are invincible now, aren't you still an old chony virgin? Roland, yeah, just like the bones you are, an old virgin. Adam, the 2 old fellows who have been single for a few hundred years now, after doing their daily routine of pouring salt on each other's wounds, both sighed together. When will my single life come to an end? I really wanted to get a girlfriend. I am already numb to my lefty and righty. If it weren't for you messing up the situation, I would have already got a woman by now and maybe, even a son or grandson. Are you showing off? Do you think having a meat body is worth showing off? My lefty and righty are only bones now. Showing off? Show off your head. Your rumors, saying that I am destined to a lonely star, caused all the beautiful ladies in the city to avoid me. Just last week, I accidentally bumped into a hot chick and it should be a wonderful encounter. But, she ran to the Holy Light Church to dispel the curse. To think of it as being a curse. Do you know what I was feeling then? Of course, I know, that is why I told that desert beauty that you were born under a lonely star. I knew it. Why would an outsider know about these rumors otherwise? It was indeed you, bastard. Alright. After that exchange, the perfect human hero Adam and Sulphur Mountain City's most dignified Supreme Judge Woomian starts fighting together like kids. But as usual, this meaningless fight came to an end very quickly. This semi-god warrior might be able to beat this trash whose fighting prowess is not even a 5, but I don't even feel pain, so why would I be afraid of him? Different variety of virgin sarcasm come rising up from my mouth. Serves you right for being single your whole life. Legend has it that being a virgin for 30 years make you a great wizard. You are already reaching 200 soon. It can't be that you are already a great archsage. Come, let me see you shoot a fireball. Why don't I use magic to transform your lefty and righty into cute girls? I assure you they will be extremely cute. Oh, you wavered. You are actually wavering. Don't be foolish. If magic can accomplish such a thing, why would I still be single now? Of course, while I was hurting him with my words, my heart was also bleeding. I am already 376 years old, but still single. I want to be resurrected. Until we remembered that there were still matters to be dealt with today, it was already evening. As expected, just like how a certain philosopher said, hurting each other would only leave a vacuum in its wake. Hey, you didn't call me here today just to fight, did you? Of course not, Margaret called me to come here for an official task. What is it? Let me think. Indeed, you are going senile already. Stop being so noisy. I got it on the tip of my tongue. Oh, right, there are two matters today. No, actually it is only one. I am about to die, you know that, right? Despite talking about his own death, that blockhead was saying it lightly as though like he was talking about where to go to play tomorrow. Of course, in a minimum of a year and a maximum of 3 years, you are going to die. Of course, I would know. In the system notice of his personal data, there is a red box beside his name, lifespan coming to an end. His death isn't too far away. 157 years. I have already lived long enough and there aren't any regrets as well. Really? No regrets? I guess he isn't wrong too. On the continent of Ike, a normal human's lifespan is about 60 to 80 years and this fellow managed to last to near 200 solely on his frightening fighting prowess, so he could be considered to have a long lifespan. Actually, there is no difficulty in expanding your lifespan. Of course, there isn't any difficulty to it. With his powerful fighting prowess, as long as he was willing to believe in gods and get an identity as a worshipper, he could achieve longevity. Otherwise, if he doesn't want to work for other people, he could convert to some race with long lifespan, such as angels, demons, undead and such. For him, it wasn't a particularly difficult task. But Adam simply laughs slightly, laughs as though there is no regrets left. Despite being young, he acts just like a senior who have seen through the world. No, 150 years for a human with a short lifespan is way too long. I have already lived enough. A useless village youngster has already completed his dream as a hero and those he is acquainted with are already mostly dead. There is nothing left that I want to do, so it is about time to rest. Also, having an elderly hogging onto the top position looks ugly too. It is about time for newcomers to take the top spot. You still miss Lisa? His words couldn't fool me. Lisa. Grant, Adam's previous companion and his crush. However, 100 years ago, she died in a battle against Lord Yong-ai. With this fellow's abilities, if he really wants to get a girlfriend, there is no reason why he wouldn't be able to find it. Furthermore, for his 2 attempts at marriage, if he was determined to persevere to the very end, with his fighting ability, there is no reason why he would simply watch as we crashed his wedding. Hey, you really are a love saint. But, this is too selfish. Roland, yes, I am really selfish. He actually lowers his head and admits to it. I am apologetic to Margaret. As an immortal, she is still young, she should choose a better partner. Adam, the great Saint Margaret has a crush on Adam, but Adam can let go of his dead ex-girlfriend. This has already become an open secret among Sulphur Mountain City's top brass. As for the 2 attempts at marriage, he is probably intending to convince Margaret to give him up. Of course, the fact that Margaret unhesitatingly contacted me to deliver Adam her wedding present shows that she was unwilling to give up. Things like rumors can spread around easily, and at the same time, it can be stopped easily. The reason why it became a secret which everyone knows of is probably because the city lord Adam simply watched upon its development. What a foolish triangle relationship. Alright, as an outsider, I won't pry into your affairs, but since you already decided to die, then the other matter, I roughly know what you are going to talk about. Of course, since the jailer is about to die, then as the prisoner, it is about time we wrap up your sentence and prepare for your release. Congratulations to you, Lord Yong-ai. How do you feel about regaining your freedom? Yes, this Sulphur Mountain City is actually a prison. Hero Adam, Great Saint Margaret and the ancient red dragon Little Red, these 3 heads are the jailers. And I, previously known as Undead Emperor Lord Yong-ai, am the only prisoner of this jail. Then, Hero Adam, are you certain you want to let me out to destroy the world? Anything that pleases you. A world without Lisa, if you want to destroy it, go ahead. Chapter 10, The Whisper of the Demons. Lord Yong-ai. Truth to be told, the name came from a joke-like declaration. TL, Yong-ai means eternal night. The holy light is inextinguishable just like the sun, its radiance will forever shine upon the masses. Since I have already been abandoned by the holy light, then let me drown the world in an eternal night. Betrayed by the Holy Church I was loyal to and losing my family and my kingdom, I curse the holy light that I believed in. I promise to bring about a new order to the continent and sweep the corrupted kings into the annals of history. Since you all decided to turn your backs on our alliances for the benefit of your kingdoms, betraying my kingdom and my citizens, then in return, I shall destroy your kingdoms. Fine, I know I sound very chony, but don't everyone have a dark history that they hope to erase? A chony is scary, but a chony transcender who have the backing of a golden system is even more scary. The evil Lich system grants me point based on how significant my actions are in causing a divergence in cause and effect of the world. Playing pranks don't have much of an effect on the world, thus the rewards are limited. But, if I decided to bring about death and destruction, I would be granted endless points, and these points would allow me to grow stronger to create more calamities. What else can bring more death and destruction than a battle for the world? Fine, a war. A war that destroys everything. Just like how the epics on the surface records, the nameless undead lord summons his unyielding army of undead. The black wings of the blood tribe cover the rays of the sun on the horizon, and eternal night descends upon the world. In the endless night, the undead dances on the battlefield, and the frenzied Black Knights start a competition on hunting human heads. When a tinge of white starts appearing on the horizon, the sea of skeletons has already arrived on the shore, and the long night of Bloodfest has arrived. On the battlefield, following the creeping of death, my strength and army expands like a rolling snowball, and eventually, I became the only semi-god undead emperor in recent times. Undead Emperor, Lord Yang became the nightmare of the living. Under the undead calamity, 4 great empires with a millennium of history behind them ended, and 3 communal countries and 6 kingdoms were swept into the pile of rubbish in history. No one was able to comprehend how Lord Yang got stronger throughout the battles, how he gained sufficient magic power to control his great 10 million army, and how he gained sufficient strength to command his 10 undead lords. Finally, the sea of endless undead swallowed everything. After Lord Yang army destroyed the alliance army organized by the Holy Church, everyone thought that the age of the living was coming to an end and the age of the undead was about to arrive. Then, a sudden news spread across the entire world, causing a frenzy of joy among everyone. Lord Yang was assassinated. The undead army has collapsed. The Red Lotus hero Adam Han became famous overnight. The entire continent sung praises of this name. The elderly raised their cups to pray that this heroic name remained permanently etched in history, while the middle-aged sung praises of his heroic epic. The young and the children saw him as their future goal and idol. A calculation after the incident: if it wasn't from the hero who seemed to have walked out from a fairy tale, Adam Han, and his crew slaying Lord Yang, the entire continent's population would very well be 30% of what it is. At this very moment, the legendary hero seemed like a kid who was fooled, his face full of anger. "Hey, I am already dying, so you should just tell the truth. That incident, did you go easy on us? Why was the defense team so empty? Why were the Royal Guard's red hunting hounds thousands of miles away? Why was there not a single Lord-level undead around you? Why did you who have attained the powers of semi-god lose to a bunch of legend like us? TL, undead lords are myth rank, just 1 rank below semi-god." I hesitate from a moment, then decides against saying the truth. "Well, don't you know reviving after death would cause one to lose a portion of their memories? I have already forgotten those stuff." In reality, after destroying a few of the kingdoms who turned their back on us and incidentally, destroy the main church of Holy Light who betrayed my motherland, the West Mist communal country, my anger has subsided quite a deal. At least, I was more rational. Slightly envisioning what was going to happen, if the Yang army continues to push forward, what would be left is only endless death and destruction. At that moment, it was already hard for me to halt the movement. As my subordinate undead lords were enthusiastically talking about building a country and how to convert the entire continent into a haven for the undead, the Yang army, which comprises a few hundred undead lords, wasn't something I could stop alone. Thus, as the leader of the alliance, I naturally had to pass away. On top of that, I left a will saying that only those who found the emblem of my kingdom, Eternal Night Scepter of Authority, can become the symbol of the next undead emperor. God weapon, Eternal Night Scepter of Authority, the symbol of the king of the undead. This is said to be a personal possession that young I keeps safely with him. It is said that the great secrets of the emperor are concealed within, but to date, the scepter has yet to appear on the stage of history. Illustrations of god equipment by Tower of 10,000 Magic. That's how they introduced the Eternal Night Scepter of Authority. Of course, as I died too hurriedly, I didn't manage to voice out what exactly is the Eternal Night Scepter of Authority, and thus, the undead lords started suspecting each other for possessing it. Who said that undead don't have desires? Strength and authority are worshipped by all intelligent beings. Well, I won't elaborate too much about what happens after. An outburst of internal conflicts led to the end of the undead calamity and the current country of undead, Zilluo Empire. Over half of its 12 greatest undead lords are old acquaintances of the Alliance army. There is even a legend that says that whoever who obtains the Eternal Night Scepter of Authority will become the next undead emperor. But what a pity, the legend is destined to be a lie, because Eternal Night Scepter of Authority doesn't exist. Yes, even the title, Lord Yang I, originates from a joke, so how is it possible for there to be such a bizarre god equipment in the world? Everyone was fooled by me. After succeeding in my revenge, I had no more goals. After changing another body, I would be a reborn man. Initially, I intended to start all over after reviving, accumulate my strength and wait for the supposed game events to unfold while awaiting the return of my dumb younger brother. However, the only thing that was unplanned was that the Saint Margaret managed to see through my ploy. She knew that it was hard for a Lich to be totally killed, and thus, she sealed by Horcrux, restraining me. Sulphur Mountain City was originally a plot of barren land that they decided to live in, but after a few refugees came, this became the start of the city we knew. In the underground world where danger lurks, the protection of the strong is more important than anything else. At the least, they wouldn't end up the prey of slave merchants or the food of wild beasts. As expected, Adam that fellow was warm-hearted in helping others, while Margaret Willing did anything Adam was agreeable to. As for Little Red, she was happy upon finding a new toy, which was me, and decided to help out as well. Eventually, more and more refugees came seeking protecting, and slowly, Sulphur Mountain Village took shape, and after hundreds of years, the small village before has evolved into the renowned city of Paradise. Thus, the three bored and idle fellows became known as the three heads of the city. Adam became the Lucky Charm City Lord, Margaret was forced to govern the internal affairs, while Little Red still continues her sleep, occasionally waking up to cause everyone some trouble. After watching enough of them fumbling around, the equally idle me, using my knowledge from both worlds, created a set of governing and law system which sustained until present date. Watching the Lich in front of him who was playing with his finger bones, Adam gave a deep sigh. Following the mainstream view of I continent, the holy light and law that belongs under the order and the death and destruction that belongs under the chaos should be like oil and water. The moment one was born of a certain race, his faction was already decided. When we heard that you wanted to become the supreme judge and take charge of the law and order, we all thought you were joking. I didn't expect that you would really succeed. For Sulphur City's famous judicial system that is praised as the masterpiece of the Order faction to be created by a Lich who was the embodiment of chaos and death, even if we advertise this, I doubt anyone would believe it. The Lich in front of Adam's eyes was even more incomprehensible. If we say that he was a good person, he single-handedly created countless tragedies as the evil incarnation of chaos, the undying Lich. If we say that he was a bad person, then in this 100 years of living together, he surprisingly didn't do any astonishing evil deeds, and instead, he was the one upholding justice and striking down on the evil. For the Blood Tribe and the Elves who are blessed with longevity, they tend to live with a slow tempo, while giant dragons and undead are even more known to have no concept of time. Normal races with short lifespan cherish their short time and busy themselves, and after reaching the 50 mark, their spiritual tiredness and pain makes them sluggish and idle. Humans are social creature, leaving the group would only make one an eccentric loner. Someone once did a calculation, no matter how kind and upright a mage was before turning into a Lich, after hundreds of years of leaving the community, in the eyes of outsiders, The corruption by black magic would make one turn eccentric and evil. Even an undying warrior like Adam has finally reached a day where he felt sick of living but the Lich in front of his eyes. Unlike his other brethren who were solemn, he lives energetically and creates new trouble every day. Weirdo. Truthfully, I really admire you at times. Incantation of Law and Law Incantationer. Your Codex of Origin could provide the strong an opportunity to job advance as a Justice Knight, Law Incantationer or Judgmenter. This means that the Origin of Order have approved of your energy of law. As the creator of an energy of order that is equal to the Holy Light, you should have had a glimpse of beyond the boundary. Hearing that, I was stunned. I seemed to have underestimated the man in front of me. As expected of someone who climbed his way step by step to become a semi-god warrior. He seemed to also have felt the boundary, the one that belongs to the realm of gods. My eyes swim to the side as nonsense floated to the tip of my tongue, but seeing how Adam's lifespan was reaching its end, after hesitating for a slight moment, I decided to tell him the truth and account of our relationship for countless years. Ho ho. Death grants me endless power and the undead are born lacking something, causing undead to never be able to step foot into that realm. After reviving once again, I can probably reach that realm. Is that worth it? Death takes away your body, power, and also your memory. How much of your past will you remember? Will you still remember the days we went adventuring? Evelyn, Carwin's father. Numerous faces floated across my mind, but these faces which were etched onto my brain was mostly incomplete. However, I won't regret it. At the least, I have already avenged them. As for memory or whatsoever, it is sufficient as long as we live in the present. If we keep remembering the past, we will only grow weak. It is pointless. Of course it is worth it. My ambitions are like the sea of stars. My Codex of Justice will one day overtake the lame power of Holy Light. Ha! I am really envious of your liveliness. Then, I would be at ease leaving Sulphur Mountain City to you. An overdose of shock took me few minutes before I reattached my fallen lower jawbone. Stop joking. Where can you find a prisoner becoming their own jailer? Don't dream about being an irresponsible jailer.